They dragged her to the platform in chains, and the Alpha King smiled, because he thought she'd break. But when Naira Cade lifted her chin and met his eyes, something ancient stirred in the frozen air. The most powerful man in the North was about to claim the one girl who would never bow. This is the story of the Omega who shattered a kingdom, and the king who couldn't control her. Stay until the end to see how she breaks the system. Drop a comment with your city and hit that like button if you're ready for a story about power, rebellion, and a bond that refuses to obey. The wind cut like a blade across the gathering field. Naira felt it through the thin fabric they'd forced her into, some mockery of ceremonial dress that hung wrong on her frame, too loose in places, too tight in others. Her wrists ached where the iron cuffs had been, removed only moments ago by a guard who wouldn't meet her eyes. Smart. She'd have spat in his face if he had. Around her, girls whispered and preened. Omegas from every corner of the territory, brought here like livestock to be inspected, chosen, claimed. They'd bathed in rose water and braided flowers into their hair. They smiled with practiced sweetness, angling their faces toward the dais where the Alpha King would soon appear. Nira stood apart, arms crossed, jaw set. She hadn't bathed, hadn't braided anything. The mud from her journey still caked her boots, and her dark hair hung wild and knotted down her back. Let them look, let them judge. She wasn't here to be pretty, she was here because they'd given her no choice. Stand straight, hissed the girl beside her, some merchant's daughter from the southern packs, all wide eyes and trembling hands. He's coming. Don't ruin this for the rest of us. Nira didn't bother responding. She could already hear the drums. The crowd pressed closer. Thousands of wolves gathered in the valley beneath the iron hold, Riker Vale's fortress, a monstrosity of black stone that clawed at the sky like something built to break the world. Banners snapped in the wind, bearing the Vale crest, a wolf's skull crowned in thorns, subtle. The drums grew louder, voices fell silent, even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then he appeared. Alpha King Riker Vale stepped onto the dais and the world bent around him. Naira had heard the stories. Everyone had. The king who'd unified the northern packs by force, who'd killed his own father in single combat at 16, who'd never lost a challenge, never shown mercy, never taken a mate. He was a legend wrapped in violence, and legends weren't supposed to be real. But there he was, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the kind of predatory grace that made every instinct in her body scream run. His hair was dark, shot through with silver at the temples. Too young for gray, but they said it had turned the night he took the throne. His face was all hard lines and sharper angles, handsome in the way a knife was handsome, beautiful, brutal, designed to cut. And his eyes? Ice blue, cold enough to freeze blood. They swept across the gathered Omegas like a hunter scanning prey. Nira felt her spine stiffen. She didn't bow, didn't lower her gaze. Around her, girls dropped into curtsies, heads bent in submission. The instinct to obey radiated from Riker like heat from a forge, alpha dominance so thick it nearly choked the air. But Naira had spent her whole life resisting instincts that tried to drown her, so she stood and stared. For half a second, those ice blue eyes passed over her. Then they stopped, came back, locked on. The world went very, very quiet. Riker tilted his head, just slightly, the way a wolf might examine something unexpected. Something that didn't fit. His expression didn't change, but Naira saw the shift in his posture, the subtle tension that said he'd noticed her defiance. Good. She lifted her chin higher. Behind Naira, someone gasped. The merchant's daughter grabbed her arm, nails digging in. Are you insane? She whispered. Lower your eyes. Now. No. The word came out flat, final. Riker's lips curved. Not quite a smile. Something colder. He descended from the dais in 3 long strides, moving through the crowd of Omegas like they were mist. Girls stumbled aside, eyes downcast, trembling. He didn't acknowledge them, didn't slow. He walked straight to Naira. Up close, he was worse, bigger. The scent of him, snow and iron and something wild, rolled over her like a physical force. Every instinct she had screamed at her to submit, to kneel, to show her throat. She gritted her teeth and held her ground. Riker stopped 3 feet away, studied her with those Arctic eyes. Name, he said. His voice was low, rough-edged, the kind of voice that didn't ask twice. Naira Cade. Pack? None. His eyes narrowed. Everyone has a pack. I don't. Silence. Then, quieter, almost curious. Why? She could have lied, should have, probably. But lies required effort she didn't have, and she was so tired of pretending. Because they threw me out when I was 12, Naira said. Because I didn't cry pretty enough when they tried to beat the fight out of me. Because I wouldn't kneel. Something flickered across Riker's face, too quick to name. And you think that makes you special? He asked. I think it makes me honest. A laugh rippled through the crowd, sharp, mocking. Naira didn't turn to see who, didn't care. Riker took another step closer. Now he was inside her space, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. The dominance pouring off him intensified, a crushing weight that made her knees want to buckle. She locked them. You're not here to be chosen, Riker said softly. You're here to survive, and isn't that what you said when they dragged you in? So he'd been listening. Of course he had. Yes. Then kneel, he said. And you will. It wasn't a command. It was a promise. Naira felt her wolf stir, restless, wrong, something fractured and feral that had never obeyed the way it should. It didn't want to submit. It wanted to fight. No, she said again. The word hung in the frozen air. Somewhere behind her, a girl whimpered. Riker's smile widened, just a fraction. Wrong answer. Then his hand shot out, fingers closing around her wrist. The bond snapped into place like a bear trap. Naira gasped. The world lurched sideways, colors bleeding too bright, sounds sharpening to painful clarity. Heat flooded her veins, not gentle, not warm, but scalding, violent, wrong. The mating bond wasn't supposed to form like this. It was supposed to be a choice, a mutual pull, something that built slowly between compatible wolves. This was a wildfire, and it was eating her alive. She heard Riker's breath hitch, just once, felt his grip tighten on her wrist, claws pricking her skin. His eyes went wide, shock cracking through that icy mask for half a heartbeat. Then his expression hardened into something unreadable. Mine, he said. The word echoed across the field, amplified by Alpha Command, undeniable and absolute. The crowd erupted, cheers, gasps, the roar of thousands of voices all blurring together. Naira barely heard them. Her entire focus had narrowed to the man in front of her, to the bond screaming in her chest, to the terrible realization clawing its way up her throat. He'd claimed her, and she couldn't break free. Riker released her wrist, stepped back. His face was stone again, unreadable, but his breathing came just slightly too fast. Take her to the hold, he said to someone behind her. A guard, probably. The Queen's chambers, no one enters without my order. Then he turned and walked away, moving through the crowd like they weren't even there. Naira stood frozen, her wrist burning where he'd touched her, the bond writhing in her chest like something trying to claw its way out. Hands grabbed her arms, guards, rough and efficient. She didn't resist. Couldn't. Her body felt disconnected, puppet strings cut, every nerve ending screaming. They dragged her toward the iron hold. Behind her, the gathering dissolved into chaos, whispers, speculation, the kind of wild gossip that would spread through every pack by nightfall. She caught fragments as they hauled her up the stone steps. Chose the outcast. Didn't even submit. What was he thinking? She'll be broken by morning. No one defies the Alpha King. The massive doors of the hold slammed shut behind her, cutting off the noise. Silence. Naira was marched through corridors of black stone, past windows that looked out over a kingdom she didn't want, into a tower that climbed toward the sky like a threat. The guards said nothing. Their hands stayed firm on her arms, but they wouldn't look at her, like she was already a ghost. Finally, they stopped at a door carved with intricate wolf designs, beautiful, expensive, oppressive. One guard unlocked it, the other shoved her inside. The door slammed, a lock clicked. Naira stood in the center of the room, breathing hard. The Queen's chambers. It was a cage dressed up in luxury. Furs on the bed, tapestries on the walls depicting great battles and conquests, a fireplace already roaring with heat she didn't want. Windows that showed the mountains beyond, freedom, so close and utterly unreachable. The furniture was dark wood, heavy and ornate. Everything about the space screamed permanence, like whoever lived here was meant to stay forever. She walked to the nearest window, pressed her hands against the glass. It was cold under her palms, frost creeping at the edges despite the fire behind her. The bond pulsed in her chest, a constant reminder of what had just happened. He'd claimed her. The Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in the territory, the man no one defied, had looked at her and decided she was his, and she'd never hated anyone more in her life. Nira turned away from the window, examined the room with a tactical eye, the way she'd learned to assess any space in the frontier. 2 doors, one she'd come through, locked. Another, smaller, leading to what looked like a bathing chamber. Windows too high to jump from without breaking bones, and even if she survived the fall, she'd be in the middle of the hold's courtyard, surrounded by guards, by wolves loyal to Riker, by a system that would tear her apart. She was trapped. The realization should have made her panic, should have sent her clawing at the door, screaming to be let out. Instead, she felt something cold settle in her gut. Anger, pure, focused, burning anger. She'd spent 6 years surviving on her own. 6 years learning to hunt, to fight, to read the land and the weather and the predators that wanted her dead. She'd outlasted wolves twice her size, outthought packless rogues who'd tried to claim her, outrun winter storms that should have frozen her solid. And now some king thought he could put her in a pretty room and call her his? No. Naira walked to the wardrobe, pulled it open. Inside, dresses hung in neat rows, silk and velvet, soft colors, delicate fabrics that would tear the moment she shifted. Queen's clothes, Omega clothes, the kind of things worn by wolves who'd never had to fight for their lives. She grabbed the nearest one, pale blue, lace at the collar, and tore it down the middle. It felt good. She tore another, and another, ripped through the entire wardrobe until the floor was covered in shredded fabric, until her hands ached and her breathing came hard. Then she stood in the wreckage and waited for someone to come punish her. No one did. Hours passed. The sun sank lower, painting the mountains in shades of blood and gold. Servants came once, 2 women in gray dresses carrying trays of food. They saw the destroyed clothes, exchanged nervous glances, set the trays down, and left without a word. Nira didn't touch the food. She sat by the window and watched the light die. When full dark came, she heard wolves howling in the distance, packs running through the forest beyond the hold, free and wild, and everything she wasn't. The bond pulled at her chest, a constant ache like something hooked behind her ribs, tugging her toward wherever Riker was in this massive fortress. She tried to ignore it, shoved it down the way she'd learned to shove down hunger, pain, fear. But it kept coming back. Around midnight, footsteps echoed in the corridor. Nira turned toward the door, muscles tensing. She'd positioned herself near the fireplace, close enough to grab the iron poker if she needed a weapon. The lock clicked. The door opened. Riker stepped inside. He'd changed from the ceremonial armor into simple black, tunic, trousers, boots. But he still carried himself like a king, all controlled power and lethal confidence. Those ice blue eyes found hers immediately, then swept the room, taking in the destroyed wardrobe, the untouched food, the poker in her hand. He shut the door behind him. Didn't lock it. Interesting. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Riker walked to the window, keeping distance between them. He looked out at the mountains, profile sharp against the dark glass. "You destroyed the clothes," he said. "Yes?" "They were expensive." "I don't care." "Clearly." He turned to face her. "You also haven't eaten." "Not hungry." "You're lying." Naira's grip tightened on the poker. "What do you want?" "To talk." "We have nothing to talk about." "I disagree." Riker moved closer, not threatening, just closing the space. "You're angry. You have every right to be. But if we're going to make this work..." "Make this work?" Nira cut him off, voice rising. "You forced a bond on me, claimed me in front of everyone like I was some prize you won. And now you want to talk about making it work?" "I didn't force the bond." His voice stayed level, controlled. "It happened. Neither of us chose it." "You said mine." She spat the word like poison. "You claimed me in front of everyone, knowing I didn't want it. That's force. If I hadn't claimed you, someone else would have. Then I'd have fought them too." Something shifted in Riker's expression, almost like respect buried under layers of ice. You can't fight the entire kingdom, Nira. Watch me. He studied her for a long moment. Then slowly, he sat down in one of the chairs near the fireplace, not commanding her to sit, not invading her space, just sitting. It threw her off balance. Tell me about the frontier, he said. Nira blinked. What? You survived 6 years out there, alone. I want to know how. Why? Because I've sent warriors into the frontier on scouting missions. Half of them don't come back. The ones who do are never the same. His eyes met hers. But you lived there. As a 12-year-old Omega with no pack, no training, no resources. So tell me how. It felt like a trap. Some kind of interrogation disguised as curiosity. But there was something in his voice, genuine interest, maybe even respect, that made her hesitate. I learned fast, Nira said finally, or I died. Those were the options. What did you learn first? How to hide. She set the poker down just slightly. Scent, sound, movement, everything in the frontier wants to eat you or dominate you, so you learn to be invisible. And when you couldn't hide? I learned to fight dirty. Riker's lips twitched, almost a smile. Dirty how? Eyes, throat, knees, anything that hurts enough to give you a head start. Nira leaned against the wall. Big wolves think they're invincible. They expect you to submit or run. When you do neither, it confuses them. That confusion buys you seconds. Seconds are enough. You killed? When I had to. How many? Nira met his eyes. I stopped counting after the first winter. Silence. Riker's expression had shifted into something she couldn't read. You were 12, he said quietly. Age doesn't matter in the frontier, only strength, only will. She crossed her arms. Why are you asking me this? Because everyone else I've met from the frontier is either dead or broken. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. But you're neither, and I need to understand why. So you can break me more effectively? So I cannot break you at all. The words hit harder than she expected. Nira stared at him, searching for the lie, the manipulation, the angle. But his face stayed open, unguarded in a way that felt dangerous. You don't make sense, she said. Neither do you. I'm an outcast Omega with a broken wolf who refused to submit and somehow survived. There's nothing complicated about that. There's everything complicated about that. Riker stood, moving toward her again. The bond should have killed us both. The force of it, the speed, bonds don't form like that ever. But it did. And neither of us died. Why? Nira's chest tightened. I don't know. Your wolf is fractured. You said so yourself, but it's also, he stopped, searching for words. Powerful. Wrong, yes, but not weak. I can feel it through the bond. It's like nothing I've ever encountered. The healers said I was defective. The healers were idiots. She almost laughed. Almost. What do you want from me, Riker? The use of his name, not Alpha King, not Your Majesty, just his name, made something shift in his expression. I want to understand you, he said. I want to know why the bond chose you. He cut himself off, jaw tightening. What? I want you to be here because you choose to be, not because I forced you. Nira's breath caught. Then let me go. I can't. Why not? Because the moment I claimed you in front of the kingdom, you became part of its structure. The elders, the packs, the entire system, they're all watching. If I release you now, it shows weakness, and weakness gets people killed. So I'm a political pawn. You're my mate. I'm a prisoner. She gestured at the room, the locked door, the guards she knew were outside. You can dress it up however you want, but that's what this is. Riker walked to the door. For a second, she thought he'd leave. Instead, he unlocked it, pulled it open. Nira stared. What are you doing? Giving you a choice. He stepped aside, giving her a clear path to freedom. Leave. Walk out. I won't stop you. Her heart hammered. This is a test. No, it's not. If I leave, you're free. The claim is broken. You go back to the frontier or wherever you want to go. And you? I face the consequences. Nira moved toward the door slowly, waiting for him to grab her, to command her to stop, to reveal the trap. He didn't move. She reached the threshold, paused. "What consequences?" she asked. Riker's expression was carved from stone. "The elders will call it weakness. Other alphas will see an opening. Challenges will come. Everything I've built, the peace, the structure, the unified pacts, it'll fracture. That's not my problem." "No," he agreed. "It's not." The bond screamed at her not to leave, yanked at her chest like a chain. But Naira had spent her whole life fighting instincts that tried to control her. She stepped into the corridor. The stone was cold under her bare feet. The hallway stretched in both directions, guards at the end. She could hear their breathing, but they weren't moving, weren't stopping her. Riker had really given the order to let her go. She took another step, then another. The bond pulled harder. Not gently. Violently, like something trying to tear her chest open. Naira gritted her teeth and kept walking. Made it 10 steps before the pain dropped her to her knees. She gasped, hands pressed to the stone floor, vision blurring. The bond wasn't just pulling anymore. It was burning, acid in her veins, ripping through every nerve. This was what happened when you broke a mate bond. It killed you. Footsteps behind her. Riker, moving fast. "Don't," she choked out. "Don't touch me." He stopped. She could feel him there, close enough to help, not touching. "The bond won't let you go," he said quietly. "Not like this. It's too new, too strong. Then I'm trapped." Yes. Nira wanted to scream, wanted to tear the bond out of her chest with her bare hands, wanted to rage against the unfairness of it all, surviving 6 years in the frontier only to be caught by biology, by instinct, by a system she'd spent her whole life running from. But she was also practical. And right now practically meant she couldn't leave. She pushed herself to her feet, turned to face Riker. His eyes were dark with something that might have been pain. "I'm sorry," he said. "Don't." Nira's voice came out rough. "Don't apologize. It doesn't change anything." "What do you want me to do?" "I want—" She stopped, took a breath. "I want you to understand something." "What?" "I'm staying because the bond won't let me leave. Not because I want to be here. Not because I accept this." She moved closer to him, close enough that he had to look down to meet her eyes. "And if you try to make me into some obedient queen who kneels and smiles and plays her part, I will make your life miserable." Riker's expression shifted. Not anger, something almost like admiration. "Noted," he said. "I'm serious. So am I." He held her gaze. "I don't want you to be obedient. I don't want you to kneel. I don't want you to play any part except the one you are." "And what's that?" "I don't know yet." He smiled, small, genuine. "But I'm willing to find out." Nira searched his face for the trick, the manipulation, the lie, found none of it, just a king who looked almost as trapped as she felt. "Fine," she said finally, "but we do this my way." "Which is? No more locked doors, no more guards telling me where I can and can't go, no more decisions made for me without asking first." Riker considered this. "The elders won't like it." "I don't care about the elders. They're powerful. They have influence. And I have nothing to lose." Naira crossed her arms. "You want me to stay? Those are my terms." For a long moment, Riker said nothing. Then he nodded. "Done." "Just like that?" "Just like that." He gestured back toward the open door. "You want to go somewhere right now? Leave the hold? I'll walk with you." It felt too easy. Too good to be true, but Nira had learned to take opportunities when they came. "The forest," she said. "I want to see the forest." Riker's eyebrows rose. "Now? It's past midnight." "I've spent 6 years in forests at midnight. It's when I feel most alive." Something shifted in his expression. Understanding, maybe. "Then we go to the forest," he said. They walked through the hold in silence. Guards watched them pass, Naira in her torn ceremonial dress, Riker in simple black. Both of them moving like they had every right to be wandering the corridors after midnight. No one stopped them. At the main entrance, a guard handed Riker a cloak. He took it, then turned to Naira. "You'll freeze," he said. "I've frozen before." Humor me. He held out the cloak. It was thick, fur-lined, warm. Nira took it, wrapped it around her shoulders. It smelled like him, snow and iron and wild things. The bond hummed with approval. She ignored it. They stepped out into the night. The cold hit immediately, sharp and clean and perfect. Nira breathed it in, felt her wolf stir for the first time since the gathering. Not fractured, not wrong, just awake. Riker led her down stone steps, across a courtyard toward a gate in the outer wall. More guards. They bowed to Riker, glanced at Naira with barely concealed curiosity, and opened the gate without question. Beyond the walls, the forest waited. Dark pines stretched toward a sky full of stars. Snow covered the ground in a thick blanket, untouched and perfect. The scent of evergreen and frozen earth filled Nira's lungs. Home. Not literally, but close enough. She walked forward, boots crunching in the snow. Riker followed, keeping pace beside her, but not crowding. They moved between the trees in silence, deeper into the forest, until the lights of the hold were just distant glimmers through the branches. Then Naira stopped, closed her eyes, listened. Wind in the branches. Small creatures moving through the underbrush. The distant howl of a wolf pack miles away. The forest was alive in ways most people never noticed, but she'd learned to hear it, to read it, to understand its language. "You miss this," Riker said quietly, "every second of every day." "Why?" Nira opened her eyes. "Because out here, I know the rules. Hunt or be hunted, survive or die. It's honest. And the hold isn't? The hold is politics and power plays and people pretending to be civil while planning how to destroy each other." She turned to face him. "The frontier just tries to kill you outright. It's cleaner." Riker smiled. "You're not wrong." "You agree?" "I grew up in that hold. Watched my father play games with people's lives. Watched him smile at allies he was planning to betray. Watched him rule through fear and call it strength." His expression darkened. "The frontier would have been kinder. But you stayed. You killed him and took his throne. Someone had to. Why you?" "Because I was the only one strong enough, and because—" He stopped, looked up at the stars. "Because I thought I could do better, be better, build something that wasn't just violence and fear." "And did you?" "I don't know." Riker's voice was quiet. "Some days I think yes. We have peace. The packs aren't at war. People aren't starving. But other days—" He shook his head. "Other days I look in the mirror and see my father staring back." Nira studied him. This king who'd forced a bond on her, who'd claimed her in front of thousands, who held absolute power over every wolf in the territory. He looked tired. "What's your wolf like?" she asked suddenly. Riker glanced at her, surprised. "Why?" "Because mine is broken, and you felt it. So I want to know what yours is like." He was quiet for a moment, then, "Strong. Too strong, sometimes. It wants to dominate everything, every challenge, every threat, every person who might question my authority. It's—" He struggled for words. "Relentless. But you control it. Most of the time. And when you don't, people get hurt." The honesty in his voice surprised her. "The night you killed your father," Nira said, "did you control it then?" "No." Riker's jaw tightened. "I let it loose completely, and when it was done—" He stopped, took a breath. "I'd torn him apart, in front of the entire court. There wasn't enough left to bury." Nira should have been horrified, should have seen the monster, the dangerous alpha, the reason to run. Instead, she saw someone who understood what it meant to have a wolf you couldn't always control. "My wolf wanted to kill you," she said, "when you claimed me. It didn't want to submit. It wanted to fight. I know, I felt it. But it couldn't, because the bond forced it into submission." Riker moved closer. "I know, and I'm sorry for that." "Stop apologizing." "Why?" "Because it doesn't help. What's done is done." Nira wrapped the cloak tighter around herself. "But I need you to understand. My wolf will never accept this. Not fully. It's too broken, too wild. So if you're expecting some perfect mate bond where we're both happy and content and everything just works, I'm not." Riker's voice was firm. "I felt what happened when the bond formed. It was violent, chaotic. Wrong in every way a bond should be. But what? But it also felt real. He met her eyes. Like maybe all those other bonds, the gentle ones, the easy ones, maybe they're the broken ones. And this? He gestured between them. This is what a bond is supposed to be when it's between two wolves who don't know how to submit. The words settled in Nira's chest, heavy and uncomfortable, because he might be right. I don't want this, she said quietly. I know. I don't want you. I know that too. So why? Because the bond doesn't care what we want. Riker stepped closer, close enough that she could see the silver flecks in his eyes. It formed, and now we have two choices: fight it until it destroys us both, or find a way to live with it. Those are terrible options. Yes, they are. Nira looked away, staring into the dark forest. Somewhere out there was freedom, the frontier, a life without bonds or kings or systems trying to force her into shapes she'd never fit. But the bond wouldn't let her reach it, not yet, maybe not ever. If I stay, she started. You're already staying. The bond made that choice for us. Then if I have to stay, Nira corrected, I need you to promise me something. What? Don't try to change me. Don't try to make me softer or quieter or more acceptable. Don't parade me in front of your elders and expect me to smile and nod and play the part of the obedient queen. Riker's expression shifted into something fierce. I wouldn't dare. And if they try to force me, they'll answer to me. You promise? I promise. He held out his hand. I'll stand between you and anyone who tries to break you. That's my vow. As your mate. As the Alpha King. As... He paused. As someone who's starting to understand what it means to be trapped by your own nature. Nira looked at his outstretched hand. Every instinct screamed at her not to take it, not to trust him, not to give even an inch. But she was also practical. And right now, an ally was better than an enemy. She took his hand. The bond flared at the contact, warm, bright, almost happy. She hated that it felt good. This doesn't mean I forgive you, Nira said. I know. Or that I accept this. I know. I'm still angry. Good. Riker's grip tightened on her hand. Anger will keep you alive in that hold. Use it. Let it fuel you. And when the elders try to put you in your place, he smiled, sharp and dangerous. Burn them down. Nira felt something shift in her chest. Not the bond. Something else. Understanding, maybe. Or the beginning of respect. They're going to hate me, she said. Absolutely. And you're going to let me fight them. Every step of the way. She studied his face. This king who'd stolen her freedom, who'd forced a bond she didn't want, who held absolute power over her life. This king who was promising to let her be exactly who she was. This is going to be a disaster, Nira said. Riker laughed, low and rough and genuine. I'm counting on it. And for the first time since the gathering, Nira felt something other than rage in her chest. Something that might, eventually, become hope. They stood in the forest, hands clasped, the bond humming between them like a live wire. The night stretched around them, cold and clear and infinite. Somewhere in the hold, the elders were probably already plotting how to control her. Good. Let them try. Nira had survived 6 years in the frontier. She'd outlasted wolves twice her size, outthought predators who wanted her dead, outrun winter storms that should have killed her. And now they expected her to submit to their politics? She almost pitied them. Almost. We should go back, Riker said finally, before the entire hold comes looking for us. Let them look. Nira, I'm not ready. She pulled her hand free, walked deeper into the trees. I need more time. Time for what? To remember who I am, before I go back in there and let them try to make me someone else. Riker followed, keeping distance, but not leaving. Then take it. Take all the time you need. So she did. Nira walked through the forest, breathing in the cold air, letting the night settle into her bones. She found a fallen log and sat, staring up at the stars through the pine branches. Riker sat nearby, not talking, just present. And slowly, piece by piece, Nira felt herself settle. The bond was still there, still pulling, still wrong in all the ways that mattered. But maybe, just maybe, It wasn't the worst thing that had ever happened to her. Not if she could use it. Not if she could take this power, this connection to the Alpha King, and turn it into a weapon. A way to change the system from the inside. A way to make them all understand that Omegas didn't have to kneel. The thought crystallized in her mind, sharp and clear. She stood, turned to Riker. "I'll go back," she said, "but on my terms." "Which are?" "Tomorrow, I meet your elders. All of them." His eyebrows rose. "That's not... I don't care if it's customary or not. If I'm going to be your mate, if I'm going to be their queen, then they're going to meet me on my terms. Not in some formal ceremony where I'm expected to bow and scrape. In a council meeting, where I have a voice." Riker stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, wide, genuine, almost proud. "Done," he said. "Just like that?" "Just like that." He stood, moving to her side. "They're going to lose their minds." "Good. You realize this means war." "I've been at war my whole life," Naira said. "This time, I just have better weapons." And as they walked back toward the iron hold, the bond humming between them like a promise and a threat, Naira felt something settle in her chest. Purpose. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was going to change everything. And the Alpha King, whether he knew it or not, had just handed her the key. The council chamber smelled like old blood and older power. Naira stood at the entrance, Riker beside her, and felt every pair of eyes lock onto her like crosshairs. The room was circular, carved from the same black stone as the rest of the hold, with a domed ceiling that made voices echo. Torches lined the walls, casting shadows that moved like living things. 12 elders sat in high-backed chairs arranged in a semicircle. 6 men, 6 women, all of them ancient by wolf standards, gray-haired, scarred, carrying themselves with the kind of authority that came from surviving decades of pack politics. Behind them stood their seconds, younger wolves chosen for strength, or cunning, or both. At the center of the semicircle was a raised platform with 2 chairs. One was a throne, massive, ornate, clearly meant for the Alpha King. The other was smaller, positioned slightly behind and to the left. The queen's seat, subordinate, secondary, a decoration. Naira looked at it and felt her lip curl. "That's not going to work," she said. Riker followed her gaze. "I had them bring it up from storage last night. Send it back." "Naira, I'm not sitting behind you like some obedient pet." She turned to face him. "You promised. My terms." The elders were watching now, leaning forward, probably straining to hear. "Good. Let them." Riker's jaw tightened. Then he raised his voice, addressing the chamber. "Bring another throne, same height, place it beside mine." Silence. Then an elderly woman in the leftmost chair, white hair braided with silver beads, face like weathered granite, spoke. "That is not protocol, Alpha King. Protocol is changing, Elder Marin. The Queen's seat has been in that position for 300 years. Then it's past time for an update." Riker's voice carried the weight of command. "Do it. Now." 2 guards scrambled to obey. They removed the smaller chair, disappeared through a side door. The chamber filled with whispers, low, scandalized, exactly the reaction Naira had expected. Elder Marin's eyes narrowed. "You indulge her." "I respect her." "There's a difference between respect and careful, Elder." Riker's voice dropped to something dangerous. "You're about to question my judgment in front of the full council. Think very hard about whether you want to do that." Marin's mouth snapped shut, but the look she gave Naira could have stripped paint. The guards returned carrying a second throne. It took 4 of them to maneuver it into place. Heavy oak, carved with wolves, identical to Riker's except for the cushions. They set it down beside the Alpha King's seat, exactly level. Equal. The chamber erupted. "This is outrageous. Completely inappropriate. Setting a precedent that will..." Riker raised one hand. The voices cut off like he'd severed their vocal cords. "Sit," he said to Naira. She walked up the platform steps, acutely aware of every eye tracking her movement. The throne was cold under her legs, even through the dress they'd brought her that morning, dark green, simple, nowhere near as delicate as the ones she'd destroyed. She'd insisted on boots instead of slippers. The servants had looked horrified. Riker sat beside her. Not in front, not above. Beside. The message was clear, and judging by the expressions on the elders' faces, they'd received it loud and clear. Let's begin, Riker said. An elderly man in the center chair, bald, with scars crossing his face in deliberate patterns, cleared his throat. Alpha King, before we proceed with standard business, perhaps we should address the situation. Which situation would that be, Elder Torvald? Your mate. Torvald's eyes flicked to Naira, dismissive. She is untrained, unrefined. Her presence in council is my decision, Riker cut him off, and not open for debate. With respect, Alpha King, everything in this chamber is open for debate. That's why we exist. Then debate it, but know that the outcome won't change. Torvald's nostrils flared. The council has a right to voice concerns about those who influence the throne. I don't influence the throne, Nira said. Every head swiveled toward her. Apparently they hadn't expected her to speak. I sit beside it, she continued. There's a difference. And what difference would that be? Torvald's voice dripped condescension. The difference between a puppet and a partner. Marin leaned forward. You believe yourself the Alpha King's partner after 3 days? I believe the Bond made that decision. Not me, not him. But since we're stuck with it, we might as well be honest about what it means. And what does it mean, girl? The word girl was meant to diminish her. Nira let it slide off. It means I'm not going to sit quietly while you all decide my fate. It means I have a voice. It means... She paused, choosing her words carefully. It means things are going to change around here. The chamber went very, very quiet. Then someone laughed. It came from the right side of the semicircle, a younger elder, maybe 50, with red hair shot through with gray. His name was Kieran, if Naira remembered correctly from the brief rundown Riker had given her that morning. Change, Kieran repeated, still chuckling. The outcast Omega thinks she's going to change the North. I don't think. I know. Based on what? 3 days as the Alpha King's mate? 6 years surviving in the frontier? Kieran's smile was sharp. That's not qualification. That's luck. Call it whatever you want. Doesn't make it less true. You're arrogant. You're condescending. I guess we're even. Riker made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. The elders noticed. Marin's face had gone stony. Alpha King, your mate's tone is honest, Riker said, refreshing even. This council could use more of it. This council operates on respect and tradition. This council operates on power and fear. Nira interrupted. Everyone in this room knows it. You just don't like hearing it out loud. Torvald stood abruptly. I will not sit here and be insulted by a packless child who knows nothing of governance. Sit down, Elder. Riker's voice cracked like a whip. She has every right to speak. She has no rights in this chamber. She has every right I choose to give her, and right now that's all of them. Riker leaned forward, eyes blazing. So sit down. Torvald sat, but his hands gripped the armrests hard enough to make the wood creak. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. Nira felt her heart hammering, but she kept her expression neutral. This was the game. Push. See who pushed back, establish boundaries. She'd learned it in the frontier, where every interaction with another predator was a negotiation written in body language and violence. This was just a more civilized version. Barely. Perhaps, said a woman from the left side. Elder Solene, younger than the others, with sharp features and calculating eyes. We should discuss what the new queen actually intends to do, besides sit in council meetings. Good question. Nira met Celine's gaze. What does a queen do here? Traditionally, host gatherings, mediate disputes between pack omegas, produce heirs, provide comfort to the Alpha King. The way she said comfort made Naira's skin crawl. Sounds boring, Nira said flatly. Celine's eyebrows rose. Boring? Useless too. Riker doesn't need me to host parties or mediate disputes. He has servants for the first, and you all for the second. And heirs? Not happening anytime soon. Shock rippled through the chamber. Even Riker tensed beside her. The bond is 3 days old, Naira continued, keeping her voice level. We barely know each other. You really think I'm going to bring children into this mess? The kingdom requires... The kingdom can wait. She looked at each elder in turn. I'm not a broodmare. I'm not a decoration, and I'm not going to play whatever role you've decided queens should fill just because that's how it's always been done." "Then what will you do?" Kieran asked. The amusement had left his voice. "I'll find out. But whatever it is, it won't be sitting in a tower waiting to be useful." Marin stood this time. "Your arrogance is astounding. Your fear is showing. I fear nothing. You fear change. All of you do." Naira stood as well, ignoring Riker's hand on her arm. "You've built a system that works for you, keeps you powerful, keeps you relevant, keeps you in control. And now here I am, someone who doesn't fit your system, and you're terrified I'm going to break it." "You couldn't break it if you tried," Marin said coldly. "Want to bet?" The challenge hung in the air. Riker stood, placing himself slightly in front of Naira. "That's enough. We're done for today. Alpha King, we haven't even begun standard business." "I said we're done." His voice left no room for argument. "This council is dismissed." The elders rose slowly, exchanging glances, clearly furious but unable to disobey a direct order from their king. They filed out in silence, seconds following. Marin was last to leave, pausing at the doorway to give Naira one final look of pure venom. Then they were alone. Naira sat back down, legs suddenly shaky. The adrenaline was draining, leaving her hollow. "That went well," Riker said dryly. "They hate me." "Yes." "You're not worried?" "Worried?" He laughed, sharp, humorless. "I'm terrified. You just declared war on the 12 most powerful wolves in my kingdom." "Our kingdom." He paused, looked at her. "Our kingdom. So what happens now?" "Now they plot. They'll meet in private, decide how to handle you. Some will push for me to annul the bond. Can you?" "Theoretically, but it would probably kill us both." "Comforting. Others will try subtler approaches. Manipulation, isolation. They'll attempt to turn me against you, or you against me. Will it work?" Riker sat on the edge of his throne, studying her. "I don't know. Will it? Not if we're honest with each other." "And are we? Honest?" Naira considered the question. "I still don't want this bond. I still resent what you did at the gathering, but—" She stopped. But I'd rather fight beside you than against you, and right now, those elders are the real enemy." "They're not enemies, they're obstacles," Naira finished. "Same thing." Riker was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You know they're going to come after you, not physically. They're too smart for that. But they'll test you, push you, try to find your breaking point. I don't have one. Everyone has one. Then they're welcome to try and find mine." Naira stood, stretching. "What's next on the schedule?" "Training yard. I have to oversee warrior drills." "Can I come?" He blinked. "You want to watch warriors train?" "I want to see what I'm working with. If I'm going to be part of this kingdom, I need to understand all of it, not just the politics." Something shifted in Riker's expression. Respect, maybe even admiration. "Fine," he said, "but stay close. Some of the warriors are traditional." "You mean they're not going to like me?" That's putting it mildly. The training yard was exactly what Naira expected. Brutal, efficient, designed to break bodies and rebuild them stronger. It occupied a massive courtyard in the eastern section of the hold, surrounded by high walls and observation platforms. The ground was packed dirt, stained dark in places where blood had soaked in over decades. Training weapons lined one wall: dulled swords, weighted practice axes, wooden staves. On the opposite side, archery targets stood at varying distances. And everywhere, warriors, hundreds of them, split into groups based on skill and rank. They sparred, drilled formations, ran obstacle courses that looked designed to kill. The sound of steel on steel filled the air, punctuated by grunts, shouts, the occasional scream when someone took a hit that knocked them down. Riker descended into the yard, and the nearest warriors immediately stopped to bow. Word spread fast. Within seconds, the entire yard had gone still, every fighter kneeling. "Up," Riker commanded. "Continue." They rose and resumed training, but Naira could feel their attention on her. Curious, suspicious, hostile. She kept her chin up and followed Riker deeper into the yard. They stopped at a raised platform where several senior warriors stood watching the drills. They bowed to Riker, Then their eyes slid to Naira with barely concealed judgment. "Commander Aldrich," Riker greeted the largest of them, a man who looked like he'd been carved from a mountain, with shoulders broad enough to block out the sun. "Status report. All units performing adequately, Alpha King. The new recruits are improving. We should be ready for the border rotation in 2 weeks." "Good. And the Southern Patrol?" "Returned this morning. No incidents." Riker nodded, then gestured to Naira. "My mate wanted to observe training." Aldrich's gaze flicked to her, cold and assessing. "Does she?" "Yes," Naira said. "I do." "Any particular reason?" "Curiosity. I've never seen organized warrior training before." "Where did you learn to fight, then?" "The frontier." Aldrich's lip curled. "The frontier teaches survival, not combat." "Survival is combat. It's desperation. Real warriors train for years, master technique, understand strategy. Real warriors stay alive," Naira interrupted. "Everything else is just decoration." Silence. The nearby warriors had slowed their drills again, listening. Aldrich's expression hardened. "With respect, my queen. You don't understand what you're talking about. Don't I? Frontier brawling is nothing compared to actual warfare. You fought alone, against rogues and wild animals. We fight in formation, against trained enemies, in battles that decide the fate of kingdoms. And yet I'm still here. How many of your warriors can say they've survived 6 years in the frontier? They don't need to. They have the protection of the pack. Which means they're weak." The words dropped like stones into water. Aldrich's face flushed. "What did you say?" "You heard me. If they need the pack to survive, they're not strong. They're dependent." "That's not... You're twisting..." Aldrich looked to Riker. "Alpha King, your mate is..." "Making a point," Riker said calmly, "whether you like it or not. The point is idiotic. Warriors train together because it makes them stronger. The pack survives through unity, not individualism." "The pack survives," Naira agreed, "but do the individuals? Or do the weak ones just get carried by the strong?" Aldrich's hands clenched into fists. "You know nothing about strength." "I know it's not measured by how many people you have backing you up." "Then how is it measured?" "By how you do when all those people are gone." The commander took a step toward her. Riker moved, placing himself subtly between them. "Careful, Aldrich," the Alpha King said quietly. "She insults everything we've built. She challenges assumptions. There's a difference." "Alpha King, with respect..." "I know." Riker's voice hardened. "You think I'm being manipulated, that I'm letting her poison my judgment. But you're wrong." "Then what is this? Why bring her here if not to undermine?" "Because she asked." Riker turned to face his commander fully. "Because she wants to understand the kingdom she's now part of, and because maybe, just maybe, she sees things we've been too close to notice." Aldrich's jaw worked. "Permission to speak freely?" "Granted." "She's dangerous. Not because she's strong, though clearly she thinks she is, but because she doesn't respect the system. And without respect for the system, everything falls apart." "The system isn't sacred," Naira said. "If it doesn't work, it should fall apart. It works perfectly. For you, for warriors, for alphas and betas who fit neatly into your hierarchy. But what about everyone else?" "Everyone else has their place. Their place." Naira laughed, bitter. "You mean the place you've assigned them, whether they want it or not. This is how society functions. This is how oppression functions." Aldrich lunged. Riker caught him by the chest, one hand splayed across the commander's sternum, holding him back with apparent ease. "Stand down," the Alpha King ordered. "She just accused us of oppression, and you're about to prove her right by attacking her for speaking." Riker's voice went cold. "Think about that." Aldrich froze, looked at Riker's hand on his chest, then at Naira, who hadn't moved, hadn't flinched, hadn't shown even a hint of fear. Slowly, the commander stepped back. "Apologies, Alpha King?" "Accepted. Now get back to work." Aldrich bowed stiffly, shot Naira one last venomous look, and stalked away. The other senior warriors followed, leaving Naira and Riker alone on the platform. "You're trying to get yourself killed," Riker said. "I'm trying to make a point. You made it, loudly, in front of my entire warrior command. Good. Naira, don't." She turned to face him. Don't tell me I went too far. Don't tell me I need to be more careful. I spent 6 years being careful, and it nearly destroyed me. I'm done with that. Being reckless will actually destroy you. Then I'll die on my feet instead of living on my knees. Riker stared at her, frustration and something else warring in his expression. You're impossible, he said finally. I'm honest. There's a difference. He shook his head, but she caught the ghost of a smile on his lips. Below them, the warriors had resumed training, but Naira could feel their attention, the weight of hundreds of eyes tracking her every move, judging, calculating, waiting for her to fail. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Show me the real training, she said. What? This, Naira gestured at the yard. This is basics. Drills, formation work. You have elite fighters. Where do they train? Riker hesitated. The lower levels. But show me. Naira, those sessions are brutal. Not performance training, actual combat. Wolves get hurt, sometimes killed. Perfect. That's what I want to see. Why? Because I need to know what I'm dealing with. The elders, the warriors, everyone in this hold, they all think I'm weak. Some packless Omega who got lucky. She met his eyes. I need to understand what real strength looks like here, so I know how to beat it. Something flashed across Riker's face. Alarm, maybe. Or recognition. You're planning something, he said. I'm always planning something. Should I be worried? Probably. He studied her for a long moment. Then, against what was probably his better judgment, he nodded. Fine, but you stay behind the barrier. No getting involved. Deal. They left the main yard through a side entrance, descending stone steps that spiraled down into the hold's foundation. The air grew colder, damper. Torches cast flickering shadows on rough-cut walls. They passed storage rooms, armories, what looked like cells. Then they reached a door reinforced with iron. Riker pushed it open. The room beyond was circular, maybe 40 feet across. The floor was bare stone, stained dark with old blood. No windows, no decoration, just a ring of torches and a barrier of silver chains marking off a central combat zone. 5 wolves stood in the ring. They were different from the warriors upstairs, leaner, scarred in ways that spoke of survival rather than training. Their eyes were hard, their movements economical. These weren't soldiers, they were killers. Alpha King, one of them said, a woman with white blonde hair and a scar bisecting her face. We weren't expecting you. Wanted to show my mate the advanced sessions. That acceptable, Rena? Rena's eyes slid to Naira. Your mate wants to watch us tear each other apart? Something like that, Naira said. Why? Research. A slow smile spread across Rena's scarred face. I like her. Don't, said another fighter, a man with black hair and too many scars to count. She's not one of us. Neither were you once, Rena shot back. So Riker pulled you out of the frontier, same as the rest of us. Naira's attention sharpened. You're all from the frontier? Born and bred, Rena confirmed. We don't fit in the regular warrior units, too wild, too broken. So Riker gave us this, a place to be what we are, in service to the kingdom. Elite killers, the black-haired man said flatly. We're the ones who do the jobs regular warriors can't stomach. Darius, Riker said warningly. What? It's true. We're assassins, Alpha King. Might as well call it what it is. Naira looked at Riker. You have a team of assassins? I have a team of specialists who handle sensitive situations. That's a yes. Every king has them. I'm just honest about it. She should have been horrified. Should have seen the darkness in that, the willingness to kill outside formal combat. Instead, she felt something like kinship. These wolves had survived the frontier. Just like her. They'd been broken by it, reshaped, made into something the regular packs couldn't understand. Can I watch them train? Naira asked. Rena grinned. You can do more than watch. You can join. Rena, Riker started. What? She wants to see real combat. Best way to do that is participate. She's not trained. Neither were we when we started. Frontier teaches you what you need to know. If she survived 6 years, she can handle 1 sparring session. The other fighters were watching now, interested, assessing. Naira felt the challenge in the air. I'll do it, she said. Nira, no. Why not? Scared I'll get hurt? Yes, actually. These sessions are designed for experienced fighters. I'm experienced, just not in your style. That's exactly the problem. Riker. She caught his arm, made him look at her. Let me do this. I need to know if I can hold my own. Why? Because eventually someone's going to challenge me. The elders, the warriors, someone who thinks they can remove me by force. And when that happens, I need to be ready. His jaw tightened, but she saw the moment he accepted the truth of her words. Fine, he said. 1 round. You tap out the second it gets too much. I won't need to. We'll see. Rena beckoned Naira forward. Come on then, let's see what you've got. Naira stepped over the silver chains into the ring. The other fighters backed up, giving them space. Rules are simple, Rena said. Fight until someone yields or can't continue. No killing. Everything else is fair. Human form or wolf? Your choice. I prefer human. More control. Human, then. They circled each other. Rena moved with the grace of someone who'd spent years learning to read opponents, to find weaknesses, to exploit openings. Naira moved like something hunted. Rena struck first, fast, brutal, a punch aimed at Naira's throat. Naira twisted, let it pass by inches, slammed her elbow into Rena's ribs. The fighter grunted, spun, swept Naira's legs. Naira hit the ground hard, rolled, came up with stone dust in her mouth and fury in her chest. They clashed again and again. Rena fought with technique, with training, with the precision of someone who'd been taught proper combat. Naira fought like the frontier had taught her, dirty, desperate, targeting eyes and throats and joints. It was chaos. Rena got her in a hold that should have ended it. Naira bit her arm hard enough to draw blood and broke free. Naira landed a kick that should have shattered Rena's knee. The fighter somehow turned it into a throw that sent Naira slamming into the floor. Blood filled Naira's mouth. Her ribs screamed. Every breath hurt. She got up anyway. Stay down, Rena panted. You proved your point. No. You're hurt. So are you. They crashed together one more time. Nira got inside Rena's guard, drove her fist up under the fighter's chin. Rena's head snapped back. Then Rena's knee came up, caught Naira in the stomach, drove all the air from her lungs. Nira crumpled, couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The world grayed at the edges. Hands grabbed her, Riker pulling her out of the ring, his face tight with worry. You're done, he said. Nira tried to respond. Couldn't, just focused on dragging air into her lungs. Rena stepped out of the ring, wiping blood from her mouth. Frontier girl's got teeth. She's insane, Darius muttered. She's fierce. Rena looked at Naira with something like approval. You ever want to train for real? Come find me. Nira managed a nod. Still couldn't speak. Riker carried her out of the chamber. She would have protested, but her legs weren't working right. He didn't stop until they were back in the main hold, in a small healing room where a surprised medic immediately started fussing over her injuries. Broken rib, the medic said after a moment. Bruised kidney. Multiple contusions. What happened? Training, Riker said flatly. Training? The medic looked at Nira like she'd lost her mind. My queen, you're not a warrior. She knows that now, Riker cut in. Just heal her. The medic worked in silence, using a combination of herbs and what felt like actual magic to knit bone and reduce swelling. It hurt worse than the fight had. When it was done, Naira could breathe again. The world had stopped tilting. You're an idiot, Riker said once the medic left. Probably. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. That's not... He stopped, took a breath. What were you trying to prove? That I can survive. That I'm not some delicate queen who needs protection. You have a broken rib. That's the definition of needing protection. It'll heal. Nira sat up slowly. And now Rena respects me. The others do too, probably. That's worth a broken rib. Riker stared at her. You're going to be the death of me. You're going to be the death of yourself if you keep treating me like glass. I'm trying to keep you alive. I've kept myself alive for 6 years. I don't need you to do it for me. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked at her with an expression caught between fury and something softer. I care about you, he said finally. I know you don't want to hear that. I know it's too soon. But the bond, he stopped. I can't watch you get hurt without wanting to tear apart whoever did it. Even when I chose to get hurt, especially then. Nira felt something twist in her chest. Not the bond, something more complicated. I don't know how to do this, she admitted quietly. Be someone's mate. Let someone care about me. I've been alone for so long. I know. And I don't want to change that. Don't want to become someone who needs another person to survive. You won't. How do you know? Because you're you. Riker moved closer, careful not to touch her damaged ribs. Because you fought Rena with a broken rib and refused to stay down. Because you stood in front of 12 elders and declared war on the system. Because, he paused, because you're the strongest person I've ever met, and the bond didn't change that. The words settled in her chest, warm and uncomfortable. I still don't like you, Nira said. I know. And I still resent what you did. I know that too. But, she stopped, made herself say it. But maybe I don't hate you anymore. Riker smiled, small, genuine. That's progress. Don't let it go to your head. Too late. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Nira's stomach growled, loud enough to be embarrassing. When did you last eat? Riker asked. Yesterday? Yesterday. I've been busy. He shook his head, stood, offered her his hand. Come on, we're getting you food. I can walk. Humor me. She took his hand, let him pull her to her feet. The bond hummed with approval at the contact. She still hated that it felt good. They walked through the hold together, and Nira noticed something different. The servants they passed didn't just bow to Riker. They bowed to her too. Word must have spread about the council meeting, about her challenge to Aldrich, about her fight with Rena. They were starting to see her as real, not just the Alpha King's mate, not just an outcast. Real. It felt dangerous, and absolutely right. They reached the private dining room, smaller than the Great Hall, more intimate. Food was already laid out. Roasted meat, dark bread, cheese, fruit, real food. Nira ate like she was starving, because she was. Riker watched her with amusement. Slow down or you'll make yourself sick. Can't help it. This is good. The cooks will be thrilled to hear it. She paused mid-bite. Do they hate me too? The cooks? Probably not. Most of the staff are just confused. About what? About you. You don't fit any category they understand. You're not a proper queen, not a warrior, not an omega in any traditional sense, so they don't know how to treat you. Good. Keep them guessing. Riker laughed. That's your strategy? Confusion? It's worked so far. He shook his head, but he was smiling. Then his expression shifted, went serious. The elders are meeting tonight, he said. Private session. I wasn't invited. Can they do that? Technically, yes. They have the right to convene without me for certain matters. What matters? Usually governance issues, but I suspect this is about you. Nira set down her food. What are they planning? I don't know, but nothing good. Can you stop them? From meeting? No. From acting on whatever they decide? Maybe. That's not reassuring. I know. Riker leaned back in his chair. But you should know, they can't remove you. Not legally. The bond is recognized by pack law. Breaking it would require both of us to consent, and even then, it's dangerous. So I'm stuck. We both are. Nira picked at her food. What if they try something illegal? Then I'll handle it. How? His eyes went cold. However I need to. The threat in his voice was clear, and Nira realized something. Riker would kill for her, not because he loved her. They barely knew each other. But because the bond demanded it, because she was his mate, because any threat to her was a threat to him. It should have scared her. Instead, it felt like power. We need allies, she said. What? You have the warriors, some of them anyway, but the elders control the packs. They have more influence than you do in some ways. That's how the system is designed. Balance of power. Then we need to shift that balance. Nira met his eyes. Who else has power in this kingdom besides elders and warriors? Riker considered. Merchants, trade guild leaders, pack healers, some of the larger landowners. Can any of them be convinced to support us? Maybe, but why would they? Because we offer them something the elders won't. which is change. Real change. The system is rotting, Riker. You know it, I know it. Anyone paying attention knows it. It just needs someone willing to burn it down and rebuild. His expression shifted, understanding, maybe even excitement. You want to start a revolution, he said. I want to stop being everyone's enemy. If the elders are going to fight us, we need other people fighting with us. That's dangerous. It could fracture the kingdom completely. It's already fractured. We just haven't admitted it yet. Riker was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Tomorrow, he said, we start reaching out, quietly. See who's willing to listen. And if no one is, then we do it alone. Naira felt something settle in her chest. Determination, purpose. She was going to burn this system down and rebuild it into something that couldn't break her. The question was whether the kingdom would survive the fire. Naira found out the answer faster than she expected. 3 nights later, she woke to the sound of screaming. Not close. Somewhere in the hold, echoing through stone corridors. Her wolf surged awake, fractured and snarling, every instinct screaming danger. She rolled out of bed, grabbed the knife she'd taken to keeping under her pillow. The room was dark, except for dying embers in the fireplace. Riker's side of the bed was empty. He'd been called away hours ago for some border dispute. Another scream, closer this time. Naira moved to the door, pressed her ear against it. Footsteps. Running, more screaming, cut off abruptly. Then silence. She counted to 10, 20. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The door burst open. Naira swung the knife up, but the guard who stumbled through wasn't attacking. He was bleeding from a gash across his throat, eyes wide with terror. Run, he choked out. There! He collapsed, dead before he hit the floor. Naira stared at the body, blood pooling on stone. Then she heard it, more footsteps, measured, purposeful, coming toward her room. She ran, out into the corridor, bare feet slapping stone, knife clutched in one hand. The halls were chaos, servants fleeing, guards fighting something she couldn't see in the shadows. Smoke filled the air, acrid and wrong. Not wood smoke, chemical. Someone had set fires. Naira rounded a corner and nearly collided with a guard she recognized, one of Riker's personal detail. My queen. He grabbed her arm. You need to get to the safe room. What's happening? Coop. The elders, they've turned half the hold against the Alpha King. We have to. An arrow sprouted from his chest. He looked down at it, surprised, then crumpled. Naira spun, saw the archer at the end of the hall, one of Aldrich's warriors, bow already knocking another arrow. She dove sideways as the arrow whistled past, hit the floor rolling, came up running. Behind her she heard pursuit. The hold had become a war zone. She made it to a stairwell, descended 3 steps at a time. Her mind raced. Coup. The elders. They'd planned this, waited for Riker to be away from the hold, struck when she was most vulnerable. They were trying to kill her, not capture, not imprison, kill. She hit the main floor and immediately saw why. Bodies littered the great hall, guards loyal to Riker, servants who'd gotten in the way. Blood painted the walls, and standing in the center of it all, surrounded by armed warriors, was Elder Marin. The old woman saw Naira and smiled. There she is, Marin said, the outcast who thought she could be queen. Naira backed toward the exit. 6 warriors moved to block it, trapped. This is treason, Naira said, keeping her voice steady. This is justice. The Alpha King has been compromised by a bond that should never have formed. He's weak, distracted, unfit to rule. So you kill everyone loyal to him? We remove obstacles. Marin stepped over a body without looking down. You were never meant to be here, girl. That bond is an abomination. You're an abomination. And now we're correcting the mistake. Riker is dealing with a very convenient border crisis. By the time he returns, this will be finished. You'll be dead. The bond will be broken. And we'll have our king back. Naira's grip tightened on the knife. You think killing me will break the bond? It will if you're dead when he returns. The shock of it, the severing, it'll shatter him. And then we rebuild him. Shape him into the king he should have been. You're insane. I'm practical. Marin gestured to the warriors. Take her. Make it quick. They advanced. Naira ran. Not toward the blocked exit, toward the kitchens. She'd mapped the hold over the past week, learned every corridor, every passage. The kitchens had a secondary entrance to the lower levels. If she could reach Rena's training room, a warrior caught her arm. She spun, drove her knife into his shoulder. He screamed. She twisted the blade, pulled it free, kept running. Blood slicked her hands, made the knife handle slippery. She burst into the kitchens, empty. The fires were still burning in the ovens. She grabbed a pan of hot oil, turned, threw it at her pursuers. One of them took it full in the face. His screams bought her seconds. She found the door, wrenched it open, descended into darkness. The lower levels were quieter, colder. She could hear fighting above, steel on steel, shouting, more screaming. The coup was spreading through the hold like disease. How many elders were involved? How many warriors had turned? She reached the training room, hammered on the iron door. "Rena! Darius! Anyone?" The door opened. Darius stood there, sword in hand, face grim. "Get in." Nira stumbled inside. The room was crowded. Rena, 3 other fighters, and a handful of guards who looked like they'd barely escaped with their lives. "What's happening up there?" Rena demanded. "Coup, Marin, and the other elders. They're killing everyone loyal to Riker." Darius swore. "How many warriors went over?" "I don't know. Enough. They have the main hall." The Alpha King? Border crisis. They planned this. Rena's scarred face twisted. "Smart. Evil, but smart. We need to get word to him. Communications cut. They hit the signal towers first." Darius moved to a weapons rack, started distributing blades to the survivors. "We're on our own until Riker realizes something's wrong." "How long will that take?" "Hours. Maybe longer if they falsified reports." "We don't have hours." Nira looked around the room. 12 fighters. Against how many? Hundreds? They were going to die here. Unless an idea formed. Terrible. Desperate. Probably suicidal. "We counterattack," she said. Everyone turned to stare at her. "Are you insane?" Darius asked. "There's 12 of us. 13 counting me. You're not a fighter. I held my own against Rena. For 1 round, this is war." "I know." Nira moved to the center of the room. "But think about it. They expect us to hide down here, wait for rescue. What they don't expect is for us to hit back." "Because it's suicide," Darius said flatly. "It's survival." She looked at each of them in turn. "You're all from the frontier. You know how this works. When you're outnumbered, you don't play defensive. You attack where they're weakest, cause chaos, make them afraid." "Afraid of 13 people?" One of the other fighters, a woman with burn scars covering half her face, shook her head. "They have the numbers. They have position. But they don't have conviction." Nira cut her off. "They're doing this for power, for politics. We're doing this to survive. That makes us more dangerous." Rena was watching her with something like approval. "What's your plan?" "Hit their command. Marin's in the Great Hall directing everything. We take her out, the whole thing falls apart." "She's surrounded by warriors. So we use the passages. The servant corridors. We come at her from an angle they're not watching." Darius frowned. "You know the servant passages?" "I've been exploring for a week. Riker's guards thought I was just wandering, but I was mapping." Nira pulled out the rough sketch she'd been keeping. Corridors, passages, weak points. "There's a route from here to the Great Hall that bypasses the main corridors entirely." Rena studied the map. "This could work." Could being the important word. Could is better than definitely dying down here. Rena looked at Darius. "I say we try it. You're both insane." "Probably." Rena grinned, sharp and feral. "But I'd rather die fighting than hiding. What about the rest of you?" Slowly the other fighters nodded. Darius sighed. "Fine. But when this gets us all killed, I'm haunting every single one of you." Nira felt something settle in her chest. Not calm, not confidence, just cold, brutal focus. They were going to war. The servant passages were narrow, dark, designed for people who were supposed to be invisible. Perfect for an ambush. Nira led them through the maze, knife in one hand, her mental map guiding them through turns and intersections. Behind her, 12 fighters moved in silence. No armor, too noisy, just blades and determination. They passed serving doors that opened onto various rooms. Through the cracks, Nira caught glimpses of the coup in progress. Warriors securing corridors, bodies being dragged away. The systematic dismantling of Riker's rule. It made her blood boil. They reached the passage that led to the Great Hall. Naira held up a hand, signaling stop, pressed her ear to the door. Voices. Marin's raised in command. Sweep the lower levels, find her body, or bring me proof she's dead. I want this finished before dawn. Elder Marin, some of the guards are still resisting in the East Wing. Then kill them, all of them. Anyone loyal to the Alpha King is now an enemy of the kingdom. And when he returns, we'll have the hold secured. He can accept our terms or join his mate in death. Naira pulled back from the door, looked at Rena. Ready? She mouthed. Rena nodded, drew her blade. The others readied weapons. Naira counted down on her fingers. 3, 2, 1. She kicked the door open. They poured into the Great Hall like a flood. Chaos erupted. The warriors surrounding Marin spun, caught completely off guard. Rena hit them first, blade singing. Darius came in low, gutting one before he could draw his sword. The others fanned out, attacking with the brutal efficiency of people who'd learned to fight in the frontier. Naira went straight for Marin. The elder's eyes went wide. She stumbled back, shouting orders, but her warriors were already engaged. Naira closed the distance, drove her knife toward Marin's throat. The elder caught her wrist, stronger than she looked. Foolish girl, Marin hissed. You think you can... Naira headbutted her. Marin's nose crunched, blood sprayed. Her grip loosened. Naira wrenched free, brought the knife up. A warrior tackled her from the side. She hit the floor hard, knife skittering away. Rolled, tried to get up. A boot caught her in the ribs, right where they'd just finished healing. She screamed. Another kick, another. Pain exploded through her body. Through blurring vision, she saw Rena fighting 3 warriors at once. Darius down, bleeding. The others struggling against superior numbers. They were losing. Naira's hand closed on something. A piece of broken table leg. She swung it blind, felt it connect with bone. The warrior stumbled. She surged up, drove the improvised club into his knee. He went down. She grabbed his sword. Too heavy, wrong balance, but it would work. Spun and found herself face to face with Aldrich. The commander's expression was cold. I told the Alpha King you were dangerous. He should have listened. He should have killed you, Naira shot back. Aldrich attacked. Fast, brutal. Decades of training in every strike. Naira blocked desperately. The sword felt like lead in her hands. Her ribs screamed with every movement. She was going to die here. Then the Great Hall doors exploded inward. Riker stood in the entrance, eyes blazing ice blue, alpha dominance rolling off him in waves that made every wolf in the room freeze. Stand down, he said. His voice was quiet, terrifying. Nobody moved. I said... His voice rose to a roar. Stand down! The command hit like a physical force. Warriors dropped their weapons, unable to resist. Even Aldrich stumbled back, fighting the instinct to submit. Riker walked into the hall. Blood dripped from his hands. He'd fought his way through the hold. Bodies marked his path. Someone, he said softly, explain why my mate is bleeding. Silence. Then Marin stepped forward, holding a cloth to her broken nose. Because she needed to die, Alpha King. The bond is killing you. We're trying to save... Save me? Riker's laugh was sharp, humorless. By murdering dozens of loyal guards. By attacking my mate? By committing treason? It's not treason to remove a corrupting influence. She is my mate. The words echoed through the hall. Chosen by the bond. Recognized by pack law. You had no right. We had every right. Marin's composure cracked. You've changed since she arrived. You question tradition. You undermine the council. You put her above the good of the kingdom. Because she is good for the kingdom. Riker moved closer to the elder. She sees what you're all too blind to see. The system is broken, the hierarchy is rotting, and you're so desperate to cling to power that you'd rather murder an innocent woman than admit you might be wrong. She's not innocent. She's my mate. Riker's eyes blazed. And you tried to kill her. That's a death sentence. Fear flickered across Marin's face. Alpha King, please? No. His voice went flat, cold. You made your choice. Now live with it. He moved, faster than Naira could track. His hand closed around Marin's throat, lifted her off the ground. The elder clawed at his arm, gasped for air. Riker! Naira's voice came out raspy. Don't! He looked at her, eyes still blazing, fury radiating off him in waves. She tried to kill you, he said. I know. But if you kill her, you prove them right. You prove the bond has made you a monster. I don't care. I do. Naira forced herself to stand, ribs screaming, walked toward him on shaking legs. I care, because we need to be better than them. They don't deserve better. It's not about them. It's about us, about what kind of kingdom we're building. She put her hand on his arm, felt the tension there, the barely controlled violence. Please, let her go. For a long moment, Riker didn't move. Then, slowly, he lowered Marin to the ground. The elder collapsed, gasping. Strip her of her position, Riker said to the room at large. She's no longer an elder, no longer part of this council. She's nothing. Alpha King, one of the other elders started. The same goes for anyone else involved in this coup. Confess now, and you'll be exiled. Stay silent, and when I find out, and I will, you'll die. 3 more elders stepped forward, heads bowed, defeated. Riker looked at them with disgust. Get out, all of you. You have until dawn to leave my territory. They fled. The great hall emptied slowly. Warriors who'd sided with the elders were arrested. The dead were carried away. Medics arrived to tend the wounded. Naira sank onto the edge of the dais, suddenly exhausted. Every part of her hurt. Riker knelt in front of her. Are you? I'm alive, that's enough. Naira, I knew they'd try something. I just didn't think it would be this. I should have been here. They planned it so you wouldn't be. She looked at him. This was coordinated. They've been planning it since the gathering. I know. His voice was rough. I'm sorry. I should have protected you better. I protected myself. With help. She glanced at Rena, who was having a gash on her arm stitched up. Your frontier team saved my life. They'll be rewarded. They'll be embarrassed. Just thank them. Riker almost smiled. Then his expression turned serious. This changes everything, he said. The council is fractured. Half the elders are gone. The warriors are divided. The entire power structure is broken, Naira finished. Good. Now we can rebuild it right. You realize this means war. Internal war. Packs will take sides. Blood will be spilled. Blood's already been spilled. She gestured at the stained floor. At least now we're fighting for something that matters. And what's that? Change. Real change. A system where bonds like ours aren't seen as abominations. Where omegas aren't just decorations. Where strength isn't measured by how well you submit. Riker studied her face. You want to tear down everything. I want to tear down what's broken and build something better. That's going to make us enemies of half the kingdom. We already are. Naira stood, ignoring the pain. So we might as well make it worth it. The next 3 days were chaos. Word of the coup spread fast. Some packs declared loyalty to Riker immediately. Others hesitated. A few outright rebelled, seeing the fractured council as weakness. Naira and Riker worked around the clock, sending messages, calling in favors, meeting with pack leaders who'd come to the hold to assess the situation. Most of them didn't know what to make of Naira. She didn't care. On the 4th day, a messenger arrived from the Eastern Packs. A formal challenge. Alpha Phoenix Cross, one of the oldest, most traditional pack leaders, had declared the bond invalid and demanded Riker step down. He's insane, Naira said, reading the challenge. He can't just... He can. Riker's voice was tired. Pack law allows for challenges to leadership if the Alpha is deemed unfit. Phoenix is arguing that the bond has compromised my judgment. So we ignore him. We can't. If I don't respond, other packs will see it as weakness. More challenges will come. Then we respond. We refuse the challenge, and no. Riker took the message from her. I accept, and I fight. That's exactly what he wants, I know, but if I don't, we lose credibility. The packs need to see that I'm still strong, still worthy. Naira's stomach twisted. When? The new moon. 13 days. Can you beat him? Riker met her eyes. I don't know. Phoenix is old, but he's survived 40 years as an alpha. He's never lost a challenge. Neither have you. I've never fought while bonded. That changes things. He stopped. What? It means part of my focus will be on you, on keeping you safe, even from a distance. The bond makes me divided. So we break it. He stared at her. What? Just for the fight. Suppress it somehow. There has to be a way. Naira, that could kill us both. And you losing this challenge definitely kills us both. Maybe everyone loyal to us. She grabbed his arm. There has to be a way. Riker was quiet for a long moment, then, there might be. It's dangerous, incredibly painful, and it might not work. Tell me. Old pack magic, a temporary severance. It forces the bond dormant for a set period, usually a day, maybe two, but the backlash when it returns. He shook his head. I've only heard of it being done twice. Both times, one of the mates died. What about the other? Went mad from the pain. Nira felt ice in her veins. Perfect. Let's do it. Naira, we don't have a choice. You can't fight divided. So we do this. You beat Phoenix, we survive the backlash. And if we don't survive, then at least we tried. He stared at her. You're willing to risk death for this? I'm willing to risk death to not be powerless. I spent 6 years in the frontier having no control over my life. I'm not going back to that. She met his eyes. We do this together. We survive together. Or we don't. But we choose. Something shifted in Riker's expression. Respect. Maybe even love. Though neither of them was ready to name it. Together, he agreed. The ritual required a blood mage. Naira had never believed in magic. Real magic. Not the small healings and enhancements that came from wolf nature. But when the blood mage arrived, ancient and scarred and radiating power, she became a believer. Her name was Kira. She looked 1,000 years old, though she moved like someone half that. You want a severance, Kira said, studying them both. Temporary. Yes, Riker confirmed. Idiots, both of you. Can you do it? I can. Question is whether you'll survive it. Kira circled them, muttering. The bond is strong, abnormally so. Forcing it dormant will feel like ripping out your hearts, and when it returns, she shook her head. The pain will be worse, much worse. How much worse? Naira asked. Imagine every nerve in your body catching fire. Now imagine that lasting for hours, possibly days. We'll manage. Kira laughed, sharp, humorless. You're brave. Stupid, but brave. She pulled out a knife. Give me your hands. Nira and Riker extended their hands. Kira cut them both, quick, efficient. Blood welled up, mixing as they clasped palms. The blood mage began chanting. The language was old, older than pack law, older than the kingdom. It made Naira's teeth ache. Then the pain hit. It felt like someone had reached into her chest and grabbed the bond with burning hands. She screamed, heard Riker scream beside her. Their blood glowed where it mixed, bright and wrong. The bond thrashed, fought, tried to hold on. Kira chanted louder. With a sound like tearing metal, the bond went dormant. Nira collapsed. The sudden absence in her chest was worse than the pain had been. Empty. Wrong. Like losing a limb she'd only just gotten used to. Beside her, Riker was on his knees, breathing hard. It's done, Kira said. You have 2 days. Maybe 3 if you're lucky. Use them well. She left. Naira and Riker knelt on the floor, hands still clasped, blood still dripping. I can't feel you, Nira whispered. I know. I know. They stayed there for a long time, learning to exist without the bond. Learning to be separate again. It felt like dying. The new moon came too fast. Phoenix arrived with 200 warriors, a show of force, a promise of violence if Riker didn't submit. The challenge would take place in the Great Clearing, 5 miles from the hold, neutral ground, witnessed by representatives from every pack. Nira stood beside Riker as he armed himself. Sword, knife, nothing else. Challenges were fought with minimal weapons. Skill mattered more than equipment. You're sure about this? She asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. If you die, you'll survive. You always do. Riker, he turned, cupped her face in his hands. If I don't come back, burn the whole system down. Make them regret ever underestimating you. I will. Good. He leaned down, pressed his forehead to hers. Without the bond, it was just a gesture, but it felt more real than any bond-driven instinct. "Don't die," Nira said. "I'll try." Then he was gone, walking toward the clearing, toward his fate. Nira followed with Rena and Darius, taking her place in the observation ring. Hundreds of wolves surrounded the clearing, all watching, all waiting to see if the Alpha King would fall. Phoenix stood in the center, older, scarred, radiating the kind of confidence that came from never losing. "Alpha King Riker Vale," he said formally. "I challenge your right to rule. The bond you formed has weakened you, made you unfit. Step down, and we'll spare your life." "I refuse," Riker said simply. "Then you die." They clashed. It was brutal. Phoenix fought with 40 years of experience, every strike calculated, every movement designed to kill. Riker fought with raw power, with speed, with desperation. The clearing became a blur of violence. Nira watched, fists clenched. Without the bond, she couldn't feel what Riker felt, couldn't sense his pain or his fear. She was just a spectator. She hated it. Phoenix landed a hit. Riker's shoulder opened, blood streaming. He didn't slow, pressed the attack, drove Phoenix back. Then the older Alpha did something unexpected. He shifted. One moment, human. The next, a massive gray wolf with scars crossing its muzzle. Riker shifted too, black fur, silver-tipped. Larger than Phoenix, but the older wolf had experience. They tore into each other. Blood flew, fur scattered. The sound of snarling filled the clearing. Nira couldn't look away. Phoenix got his jaws around Riker's throat, squeezed. Riker's struggles weakened. "No." Nira surged forward. Rena grabbed her. "You can't interfere. He's dying. If you interfere, he's dishonored. Let him fight." Nira watched helplessly as Riker's movement slowed, as Phoenix's jaws tightened, then Riker twisted. Impossible angle, broke free. His jaws closed on Phoenix's foreleg, shattered bone. The older wolf yelped, stumbled. Riker pressed, drove him to the ground. Teeth found throat, one bite, that's all it would take. "Yield!" Phoenix's voice came out choked, human words from a wolf throat. "I yield!" Riker held him there for one more second, making sure everyone saw, making sure everyone understood. Then he released, shifted back to human, stood over Phoenix's wolf form, bloodied and breathing hard. "The challenge is over," Riker announced. "I remain Alpha King. Anyone else want to question that?" Silence. Then slowly the wolves began to bow, all of them. Every representative, every warrior, even Phoenix shifting back to human, kneeling in the dirt. Nira felt something crack open in her chest. Pride, relief, and something else she couldn't name. Riker walked toward her, covered in blood, limping, but alive. "Told you I'd try," he said. Then he collapsed. Nira caught him. His weight nearly took her down, but she held on. "Get a healer," she shouted. Medics rushed forward. They laid Riker on the ground, began working. Nira knelt beside him, holding his hand. Without the bond, she had no idea if he'd survive. She'd never felt so powerless. "Don't you dare die," she whispered. "Not after all this." His eyes opened, focused on her. "Not dying," he managed. "Just tired. Then rest. I'll be here. Promise?" "Promise." His eyes closed. The healers worked, and Nira knelt in the dirt, holding the hand of a king, and prayed to anything listening that he'd wake up, that they'd have time to figure out what this was between them, that the bond's return wouldn't kill them both. Around them, the kingdom watched, waiting, judging. The coup had failed. The challenge had been won. But the war, the real war, was just beginning, and Nira had no idea if they'd survive it. Riker woke 3 days later, fever-broken, wound-stitched, but weak in ways that had nothing to do with physical injury. "The bond," he said, voice rough. "When does it—" "Tomorrow. Maybe today." Nira sat beside his bed, exhaustion carved into her face. She hadn't slept. Couldn't. Kira said the severance was fraying, and when it snaps back, we endure it, together. He reached for her hand. Even that small movement made him wince. "You should rest," Nira said. "I've been resting for 3 days. You nearly died." "But I didn't." He squeezed her hand. "What happened while I was out? The truth." Nira hesitated. Then, "The kingdom's fracturing. fast. Some packs declared for us after you won the challenge. Others are waiting to see if you survive. A few have already started fighting among themselves. Old territorial disputes, power grabs. Without the council to mediate, it's chaos. Yes. Riker closed his eyes. I broke the system by removing the elders. Now everyone's scrambling to fill the power vacuum. So we fill it first. With what? We have no council. Half the warriors are questionable loyalty. And he stopped. What did you do? What makes you think I did something? Because you have that look. The one that means you made a decision without asking me first. Nira almost smiled. I called a gathering. Every pack leader in the territory, 2 weeks from now. Here. Riker stared at her. You did what? We need to rebuild the council, but this time we do it right. No more appointed elders who hold power for life. No more closed-door politics. We bring every pack to the table and we hash it out in the open. You're talking about restructuring the entire government? Yes. Nira, that could start a civil war. It could, or it could give us the chance to build something better. She leaned forward. The old system failed. The coup proved that. So we don't restore it. We create something new. The traditional packs will never accept, then they can leave. Go back to their territories and rule however they want. But if they want to be part of this kingdom, they play by new rules. Riker was quiet for a long moment. You've been planning this. Since the coup. Since I realized the system isn't just broken, it's built wrong from the foundation. She met his eyes. You said you wanted to be different from your father. To build something that wasn't just violence and fear. This is how. By tearing down everything? By giving people a choice. Real choice. Not the illusion of it. He studied her face. You know they're going to fight this. Some with words, others with blood. I know. And you're prepared for that? I survived 6 years on the frontier. A political fight is nothing. Riker laughed. Short, pained. You say that now. Wait until you're dealing with pack leaders who've spent decades perfecting manipulation. I've dealt with predators before. These ones just wear better clothes. This time his laugh was genuine. Then he sobered. If we do this, if we really try to change everything, there's no going back. We'll make enemies of everyone who benefits from the current system. Every traditional pack. Every alpha who likes having unchecked power. Good. I'd rather have honest enemies than dishonest allies. You're terrifying, you know that? Thank you. He pulled her closer, ignoring the pain it caused. When the bond returns, we survive it, and then we change the world. Just like that? Just like that. Riker pressed his forehead to hers. I don't deserve you. You're right, you don't, but you're stuck with me anyway. Lucky me. Then his body went rigid. Nira felt it too, a pull in her chest, something that had been dormant suddenly stirring. The bond. It was waking up. Riker? I feel it. Get Kira. Now. Nira ran. She found the blood mage in the healing wing, arguing with a younger healer about proper wound treatment. It's happening, Nira gasped. The bond, Kira swore. How long? Started 30 seconds ago. Then we have maybe a minute before the full backlash hits. Get him to the warded room, the one I prepared. They ran. The warded room was in the lowest level of the hold, carved with symbols Nira didn't recognize. Kira had spent the past 3 days preparing it, whatever that meant. Riker was already there, brought by guards who'd felt his distress through the alpha bond. He looked worse than he had minutes ago, face pale, breathing shallow. Get everyone out, Kira commanded. No one inside except them. The room emptied. Kira began chanting. The symbols on the walls glowed. Then the bond snapped back into place. Nira screamed. It felt like every nerve in her body had been set on fire, then frozen, then torn apart. The bond crashed into her chest with the force of a landslide, overwhelming, demanding, trying to reclaim the space it had occupied. But it was wrong. Corrupted somehow by the severance. Instead of the usual pull, it felt like hooks tearing through her insides, like the bond was trying to destroy her from within. Beside her, Riker was screaming too, his body convulsed, back arching off the floor. Kira's chanting intensified. The symbols blazed brighter, and slowly, agonizingly slowly, the pain began to shift, not lessen. Change. The hooks became threads. The tearing became pulling. The bond settled, piece by piece, back into something recognizable. But it was different now, stronger, deeper, like the severance had somehow forged it into something new. Naira could feel everything, Riker's pain, his fear, his determination, could feel his wolf, not fractured like hers, but wild in its own way, barely controlled. And he could feel her, all of her, the broken pieces, the rage, the loneliness, the desperate hope that maybe this could work. The bond laid them bare to each other. No secrets, no walls, just truth. It was terrifying. It was perfect. The pain finally faded to a dull ache. The glowing symbols dimmed. Kira stopped chanting, swaying on her feet. "It's done," she said. "And you both survived. Congratulations. You're either the luckiest idiots I've ever met or the strongest, possibly both." Then she collapsed. Healers rushed in to tend to her. Nira barely noticed. She was staring at Riker, and he was staring back, and everything was different. "I can feel you," she whispered. "I know, I feel you too. I know." They sat in silence, adjusting to the new bond, learning its shape, its weight, its demands. Finally, Riker spoke. "Your wolf. It's not broken." Nira blinked. "What?" "I can feel it now, really feel it. It's not broken. He struggled for words. "It's wild, untamed, but not broken, never broken." Something in Nira's chest cracked open. The healers said, "The healers were wrong. Your wolf doesn't fit their structure, so they called it defective. But it's not. It's just free." Tears burned her eyes. She'd spent years believing she was broken, that something inside her was fundamentally wrong. But Riker could feel the truth. And through the bond, she felt it too. Her wolf wasn't broken. It was exactly what it was supposed to be. Different, wild, refusing to submit. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me, really seeing me." Riker pulled her close, careful of their still healing wounds. Always. They stayed like that until the healers insisted on examining them both, until duty dragged them back to the surface, until the kingdom demanded their attention again. But something had changed. The bond was no longer a chain, it was a weapon, and they were about to use it. The gathering happened on a cold morning 2 weeks later. Pack leaders arrived from every corner of the territory, some by choice, others because they'd been summoned and couldn't refuse without open rebellion. They filled the great hall, hundreds of alphas and their seconds, all eyeing each other with suspicion. Naira stood beside Riker on the dais. No throne this time. They'd had the furniture removed. This wasn't about sitting above everyone. It was about standing among them. "Thank you for coming," Riker said. His voice carried through the hall, amplified by Alpha Command. "I know many of you came reluctantly. Some of you are here hoping to see weakness. Others want to challenge my authority again." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "But I didn't call you here to defend myself," Riker continued. "I called you here to offer you something. A choice." "What choice?" someone called out. Naira recognized him, Alpha Torvin, from the Northern Packs. "Traditional. Hostile. The choice to rebuild," Nira said, stepping forward. "The old council is gone. The old system failed. We can either restore what was and repeat the same cycles of corruption and violence, or we can build something new." "The outcast speaks," Torvin said, voice dripping contempt. "As if she has authority." "She has my authority," Riker cut him off. "And more importantly, she has the authority of surviving what most of you couldn't imagine. 6 years in the frontier, a coup. A political battle she should have lost. She's earned the right to speak." "She's earned nothing. She's a—" "Careful," Riker said softly. "Choose your next words very carefully." Torvin's mouth snapped shut. Nira forced herself to stay calm, to not react to the hatred in Torvin's eyes. "We're proposing a new council," she said. "Not appointed elders who hold power for life. Elected representatives, one from each major pack territory, serving limited terms, with their power checked by the Alpha King and by each other." The hall erupted. "That's madness. Completely undermines tradition. No Alpha will submit to being voted out." Riker raised his hand. Silence fell, grudging. "I know it's different," he said. "I know it scares you. But the alternative is more coups, more challenges, more blood. The old system created that. He gestured to Naira. This is a chance to do better. Why should we trust you? A female alpha stepped forward, Lyris from the Eastern Pacts, young, sharp-eyed. You removed the elders. You bonded an outcast. You've broken every tradition we have. Why should we believe this isn't just a power grab? Because I'm offering to share power, Riker said. The elected council will have real authority. They can override my decisions with majority vote. They can propose laws. Can they remove you? Lyris asked. The hall went silent. Yes, Riker said. With a 2/3 vote, they can call for my removal and trigger a challenge for the throne. Shock rippled through the crowd. You'd give them that power, Torvin said, disbelieving. I would. Because a king who rules only through fear and force isn't a king. He's a tyrant. Riker looked at each pack leader in turn. My father was a tyrant. I swore I'd be different. This is how. Lyra studied him. And your mate? What's her role in this new system? She sits on the council, Nira said before Riker could answer. Not above it, not beside the throne. On it. As an elected member, same as anyone else. You'd subject yourself to a vote? Lyra sounded skeptical. Yes, because if I can't earn the respect of this kingdom, I don't deserve to help lead it. Silence. Then Lyra smiled, small, approving. I'll consider it, she said. Others began murmuring, discussing. The hostility was still there, but it was mixed with something else now. Curiosity. Maybe even hope. We vote in 1 week, Riker announced. Each pack sends one representative. We elect the first council, and we begin rebuilding. And if we refuse, Torvin asked, then you're free to leave. Rule your own territory however you wish. But you'll have no say in kingdom matters. No trade agreements. No protection from the crown. You'll be on your own. You'd exile us? I'd respect your choice to self-govern, but you don't get to have it both ways, reject the system while benefiting from it. Torvin's face flushed red. This is the offer, Riker said firmly. Take it or leave it, but decide soon. The meeting dissolved into smaller groups, pack leaders arguing among themselves. Naira watched them, trying to gauge reactions. Most seemed cautiously interested. A few were openly hostile, but no one was leaving yet. That was something. Lyris approached the dais. A word? Nira and Riker stepped aside with her. I like the idea, Lyris said quietly, but you need to know. The traditional packs are already planning to undermine this. They'll agree, get their people elected, then use the council to restore the old system from within. We know, Naira said. That's why we're not just changing the structure. We're changing who gets to participate. What do you mean? The vote isn't restricted to alphas. Any adult wolf can vote for their pack's representative, and anyone can run. Lyris's eyes widened. You're giving omegas voting rights. And betas. And anyone else the old system marginalized. The traditional packs will revolt. Let them, Riker said. We'll deal with it. Lyris shook her head, but she was smiling. You're both insane, but it might actually work. She paused. I'm in. My pack will support this. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You've still got to survive the next week. Torvin and his allies won't take this lying down. She left. Nira turned to Riker. She's right. They'll try something. I know. We'll be ready. They weren't ready. The attack came 3 nights later. Not on the hold, too well defended. On the supply routes, Torvin's pack and 2 others raided the caravans bringing food and resources to the capital, burned wagons, killed guards, left a message written in blood. The old ways will not die. Nira stood in the ruins of the largest caravan, fury burning cold in her chest. 20 dead, supplies destroyed, a direct challenge to their authority. We retaliate, Aldrich said. The commander had proven his loyalty after the coup, one of the few warriors who'd defended the hold. Hit Torvin's territory. Show him we won't tolerate. No! Naira cut him off. Everyone turned to stare at her. No retaliation? Aldrich looked incredulous. They killed 20 of our people, and if we attack them, we prove we're no different from the old system. Violence answering violence. Naira walked through the wreckage, examining the bodies. We do this differently. How? Riker asked. We isolate them, publicly, make them outcasts. Explain. Nira turned to face the group. Torvin and his allies attacked supply routes, essential resources. That doesn't just hurt us, it hurts every pack that depends on those supplies. So we let everyone know who's responsible. We cut off trade with Torvin's territory completely, and we invite any wolf in his pack who disagrees with his tactics to relocate here, under our protection. Aldrich frowned. You want to steal his pack members? I want to give them a choice. Stay with a leader who prioritizes power over their welfare, or come somewhere they'll be valued. Aldrich stopped. That's actually brilliant. It's also incredibly risky, Riker said. If it doesn't work, we look weak. And if it does work, we break Torvin without spilling more blood. Nira met his eyes. Your choice. King. Riker smiled. Our choice? Queen. And I say we try it. They announced the decision the next morning. Messengers rode to every pack territory with the news. Torvin had attacked supply routes. Trade with his territory was suspended. Any wolf wishing to leave was guaranteed safe passage and asylum in the capital. The response was immediate. Within 3 days, 50 wolves from Torvin's pack showed up at the hold. Within a week, 200. They told stories of Torvin's cruelty, his hoarding of resources, his treatment of Omegas and weaker pack members as disposable. The exodus continued. By the time the vote happened, Torvin had lost half his pack, and the message was clear. Oppose the new system, and your own people will abandon you. The vote itself was chaos. Every pack territory set up polling stations. Wolves lined up, alphas beside Omegas, betas beside those who'd never had political power before. Arguments broke out. Fights erupted. But the vote happened. Results came in slowly over 3 days. When the final count was announced, Nira felt something shift in the kingdom. The new council had been elected. Lyris from the eastern packs, a beta merchant named Goran from the south, a former Omega healer named Saskia from the west, and 7 others, representing every territory, every perspective. Not a single traditionalist elder had been elected. The old guard had lost. Torvin appeared at the hold the day after the results were announced. He looked haggard, defeated. I'm here to submit, he said formally. Riker regarded him with cold eyes. Submit how? I accept the new council. I'll abide by their decisions. Torvin's jaw worked. And I apologize for the attack on the supply routes. Apologize to them, Nira said, gesturing to the crowd of refugees from his pack. They're the ones you hurt most. Torvin turned, looked at the faces of wolves who'd once followed him, now staring at him with contempt or pity. I'm sorry, he said. The words sounded like they were being torn from him. I was wrong. One of the refugees, an elderly Omega woman, spat at his feet. You were a tyrant, just like the old king. Torvin flinched. You can stay, Riker said. Return to your territory. Continue as Alpha, but you'll answer to the council now. And if you step out of line again, you'll have my head. I understand. Torvin bowed stiffly, then left. Nira watched him go. He'll try again. I know, but next time we'll be ready. The first council meeting happened a week later. Nira sat among the elected members, not at the head of the table, not beside Riker's throne, in the middle with a single vote like everyone else. It felt right. The meeting was long, contentious. They argued about trade routes, border disputes, resource allocation. Voices rose, tempers flared, but they talked, they debated, they voted. And slowly, carefully, they began building something new. Afterward, Lyris approached Nira. You know they're calling you the Unbroken Queen, she said. Nira blinked. What? The refugees, the Omegas, the wolves who never had power before. Lyris smiled. You're a symbol to them. The girl who wouldn't kneel, who survived the frontier, who changed the kingdom. You're not just anything. You're the reason half of them believe change is possible. Lyris gripped her shoulder. Own it. Use it. Because this fight isn't over. It's just beginning. He was right. Over the next month, smaller skirmishes broke out. Traditional alphas testing the new system's resolve. But each time, the council held. Each time, more wolves chose the new way over the old. The kingdom was changing, not smoothly, not easily, but undeniably. And Naira stood at the center of it, no longer an outcast, no longer powerless, a queen in every way that mattered. One night, she and Riker stood on the ramparts of the hold, looking out over the kingdom. "Do you think it'll last?" Nira asked. "What we're building?" "I don't know, but I think we're giving it the best chance it's ever had." "No regrets?" "About the bond? About you?" Riker turned to face her. "Never. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." "I still don't kneel." "I know. That's why I love you." The words hung in the cold air. Nira felt them settle in her chest, warm and terrifying and real. "I love you too," she said, "even though you're an arrogant king who claimed me against my will. And you're a feral queen who threatens my council members. We're a disaster. We're perfect." He kissed her. And for the first time since the gathering, Naira felt the bond not as a chain, but as a choice. A choice she was finally ready to make. Below them, the kingdom spread out, fractured, rebuilding, full of wolves who were learning to live differently. And in the hold, the unbroken queen stood beside her king, ready to face whatever came next. Together. The word still hung between them when the horn sounded. 3 long blasts. The signal for emergency, invasion or attack. Naira and Riker were running before the 3rd blast finished echoing off the mountains. They reached the war room to find it already crowded. Aldrich, the new council members, Rena and her fighters. Everyone looked grim. "Report," Riker commanded. Aldrich stepped forward. The southern border. 3 traditionalist packs, Torvins, Phoenixes, and Alphamarics from the deep territories. They formed an alliance. They're marching on the capital with roughly 800 warriors. The room went silent. "When?" Nira asked. "They'll be here in 2 days, maybe less if they push hard." "Why now?" Lyris demanded. "The council's been functioning for a month. We've had peace." "Because they've been planning this," Riker said quietly. "The whole time. Torvin's submission was a lie. He was buying time to build his coalition. 800 warriors. Saskia, the Omega healer on the council, looked pale. "How many do we have?" 400 loyal, Aldrich said. "Another 200 questionable. If we draft civilians..." "No." Nira's voice cut through the discussion. "We don't draft civilians. That's what the old system did. Forced people to fight for causes they didn't believe in." "Then we're outnumbered 2-1, Aldrich said bluntly, "against experienced fighters." "We've been outnumbered before," Rena said. She was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, looking almost eager. "During the coup, we had 13 against hundreds. We won. That was different. We had surprise, the element of chaos." Aldrich shook his head. "This is open warfare. They'll hit us head on." Nira walked to the map table, studying the terrain between the southern border and the capital. Mountains, forests, narrow passes. "We don't meet them head on," she said. Everyone turned to look at her. "We use the terrain, force them through the Widow's Pass." She pointed to a narrow gorge 2 days south. "It's the fastest route to the capital. They'll take it because they're in a hurry to hit us before we can prepare." "The pass is a natural choke point," Riker said, understanding dawning. "We could hold it with fewer fighters. Not just hold it. Win there." Nira traced the surrounding area. "The pass has high walls on both sides. We position archers here and here. Put our best close combat fighters at the narrowest point. Make them funnel through a kill zone." Aldrich was studying the map now, tactical mind working. "It could work, but we'd need to evacuate the capital first. If we fail at the pass, there's nothing between them and the hold." "No evacuation," Nira said. "That sends the message that we're already beaten. We fortify the hold as backup, but we make our stand at the pass. That's a huge risk. Everything we've done has been a huge risk." She looked around the room. "This is no different. We chose to rebuild the kingdom. Now we defend it." "I'm with her," Lyris said. "We've spent a month building something new. I'm not abandoning it now." "Nor am I," Saskia added quietly. "For the first time in my life, I have a voice. I'll fight to keep it." One by one, the council members voiced their support. Riker met Naira's eyes. Through the bond, she felt his pride, his fear, his absolute conviction. "We make our stand at Widow's Pass," he announced. "Aldrich, Organize the warriors. Rena, your team takes the high ground with the archers. Lyris, I need your eastern pack fighters. They know mountain warfare. You'll have them. We move out at dawn. Everyone prepare your people. Riker straightened. And someone get word to every pack in the kingdom. Tell them what we're facing. Give them the choice to fight with us or stay neutral. But make sure they understand, this isn't just about defending the capital. It's about defending the right to choose our own future. The room emptied quickly, people rushing to execute orders. Nira lingered, staring at the map. You're worried, Riker said. I'm terrified. 800 warriors, Riker, even with the terrain advantage. I know. He moved behind her, hands on her shoulders. But we've come too far to back down now. What if we lose? Then we lose fighting for something that mattered. That's more than most kings can say. She turned in his arms. I don't want you to die for this. I don't want you to die for it either, but... He cupped her face. But if we do, at least we changed things. Showed people there was another way. That's not comforting. It's not supposed to be. It's just true. Nira pressed her forehead to his chest, listening to his heartbeat. The bond thrummed between them, strong and steady. I love you, she said. I know I've said it before, but I need you to really hear it. I love you, not because of the bond, because of who you are. I know. I feel it. His arms tightened around her. And I love you. My fierce, impossible queen who refuses to kneel. They stood like that for a long moment, holding on to each other before the storm. Then duty called them apart. Dawn came cold and gray. 400 warriors assembled in the courtyard, every fighter loyal to the new system, plus volunteers from the refugee packs. Nira walked among them, seeing faces she recognized. The elderly Omega who'd spat at Torvin's feet, now carrying a bow. Young Betas who'd never held weapons before, armed with spears and determination. They were going to die if this went wrong. She pushed the thought away. Listen up, Riker's voice rang out. He stood on a platform where everyone could see him. In 2 days, traditionalist forces will reach Widow's Pass. They're coming to tear down everything we've built, to restore the old system, to take away the voices you've just found. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I won't lie to you, we're outnumbered. They have more warriors, more experience, more reason to believe they'll win. Riker paused. But they don't have what we have. They don't have the conviction of people fighting for their own freedom. They don't have the strength that comes from choosing to stand together. He gestured to Nira. She climbed onto the platform beside him. 6 months ago, I was nobody, she said. Her voice carried, rough but clear. An outcast. Packless. Considered broken by everyone who met me. The old system had no place for someone like me. It would have let me die in the frontier and called it natural selection. She saw heads nodding, recognition in the eyes of other outcasts, other wolves the system had failed. But we built something new. A system where broken doesn't mean worthless, where different doesn't mean defective, where power isn't just for alphas who were born into it. Nira's hands clenched into fists. And I will be damned if I let them take that away without a fight. A roar went up from the crowd, not polite agreement, raw, fierce determination. So we march, Riker said. We defend Widow's Pass, and we show them that the old ways are dead. They moved out in formation, warriors in front, support personnel behind, supplies in the middle. The march took a day and a half, through forests and foothills, until the mountains rose up like jagged teeth. Widow's Pass cut through them, a narrow gorge barely wide enough for 20 warriors to stand shoulder to shoulder. The walls rose hundreds of feet on either side, stone slick with moisture, impossible to climb quickly. Perfect. Aldrich positioned the close combat fighters at the narrowest point. Rena's team and the archers climbed to positions on the cliff walls, using ropes and pitons. It took hours to get everyone in place. Nira worked alongside them, helping secure ropes, distributing weapons, checking defenses. Her hands were bleeding by the time they finished, torn on rough stone. She didn't care. As sunset painted the sky red, scouts returned with news. They're 6 hours out, one reported. Moving fast, they'll hit the pass around midnight. Night fighting, Aldrich muttered. That's actually smart. Harder for our archers to target. So we light it up, Nira said. Oil barrels on the cliff walls. When they enter the pass, we ignite them. Turns night into day. Rena grinned. I like the way you think. They spent the next hours preparing, rolling barrels of oil into position, soaking cloth in pitch for arrows. Every fighter knew their role, their position. Now, they just had to wait. Midnight came with clouds covering the stars. Naira stood at the entrance to the pass, Riker beside her, both of them armed and ready. The bond hummed between them, not fear, but focus. Then she heard it, the sound of marching, hundreds of feet hitting stone in unison. They were coming. The army appeared out of the darkness like a flood. Torvin in the lead, Phoenix beside him, Marek bringing up the rear. 800 warriors, moving with the confidence of wolves who'd never lost. They saw the defenders at the pass entrance and smiled. "Stand aside, Alpha King," Torvin called out. "This doesn't have to be bloody. Dissolve the council. Restore the old system. We'll spare your lives." "No," Riker said simply. "Then you die." Torvin raised his hand. The army surged forward. "Now!" Naira screamed. Arrows rained down from the cliffs, not aimed at warriors, aimed at the oil barrels. They ignited. Flames exploded across the pass walls, turning night into hellish day. The advancing army faltered, blinded by sudden light. "Archers!" Rena's voice echoed from above. "Fire at will!" Arrows fell like rain. Warriors screamed. The front lines tried to retreat, but the mass behind them pushed forward. Chaos. Exactly what they'd planned. The traditionalist army funneled into the narrow section of the pass, packed tight, unable to use their numbers' advantage. And the defenders were waiting. Aldrich led the charge. His warriors hit the front lines like a hammer, shields locked, blades flashing. The narrow space turned the fight into a brutal grind. No room for tactics, just strength and will. Nira fought beside Riker, their movements synchronized through the bond. She'd learned from Rena, fight dirty, target weaknesses, survive. A warrior came at her, sword raised. She ducked under his swing, drove her knife into his knee, used his falling body as a shield against the next attacker. Blood slicked the stone, made footing treacherous. The battle raged for hours. The oil fires burned down, dawn began to lighten the sky. And still they fought. Naira lost track of how many warriors she'd faced. Her arms ached. Her ribs, still not fully healed from the fight with Rena, screamed with every movement. But she didn't stop, couldn't stop. Through the chaos, she saw Torvin pushing toward Riker. The old Alpha's face was twisted with rage. "You ruined everything," he roared. "The kingdom was stable, ordered. You broke it for her, for an outcast." "I broke it because it deserved to be broken," Riker shot back, "because it was built on suffering." They clashed, Alpha against Alpha, old ways against new. Naira tried to reach them, but warriors blocked her path. She fought through, desperate. Torvin was strong, experienced. He got past Riker's guard, blade slicing across the king's shoulder. Riker stumbled. "No." Nira threw herself forward, tackled Torvin from the side, both of them hitting the ground hard. The old Alpha recovered first, flipped her, hands closing around her throat. "You," he snarled, "everything was fine until you—" Riker's sword took off his head. The body collapsed. Nira scrambled free, gasping. Around them, the battle was turning. With Torvin dead, his warriors were losing heart. Some threw down weapons. Others tried to retreat. But there was nowhere to go. The pass was blocked on both sides. Phoenix stepped forward, raising his hands. "We yield," he called out. "Enough! We yield!" The fighting stopped raggedly. Warriors lowered weapons, breathing hard, covered in blood. Silence fell over Widow's Pass. They'd won. Nira sat on a boulder, too exhausted to stand. Riker collapsed beside her, his shoulder still bleeding. "We should probably get that looked at," she said. "Probably." "You killed Torvin. He was choking you. I didn't have a choice. Thank you. Always." They sat in the growing dawn light, surrounded by the aftermath of war. Healers moved among the wounded. Guards secured the surrendered warriors. Lyris approached, bloodied but alive. "Casualty report? 87 dead," Aldrich said quietly, joining them. 140 wounded. But we held. And them? 300 dead, the rest surrendered. The numbers were staggering. So much death. But they'd won. They defended the right to choose, to change, to build something better. "What happens now?" Saskia asked. She was treating wounded, her healer's hand steady, despite exhaustion. Riker looked at Nera. Now we rebuild. Again. And we make sure this never happens again.
How? By being better. By proving the new system works. By giving people reasons to choose it over the old ways. He stood slowly, and by showing mercy. He walked to where Phoenix knelt, surrounded by guards. You yielded, Riker said. We did. Then here's the deal. You and your warriors go home. You keep your territories, but you acknowledge the Council's authority. You participate in the system, and you never raise arms against it again. Phoenix stared. That's it? No executions? No revenge. We're trying to build something better, remember? Can't do that by repeating the old patterns. Riker extended his hand. Do we have an accord? Slowly, Phoenix took it. We do. Over the next week, the aftermath settled. The surrendered warriors returned to their territories carrying stories of the battle, of how the new system had defended itself, of the mercy shown to the defeated. More packs declared their support. The holdouts began to crumble. The kingdom was changing, really changing. 3 months later, Naira stood in the rebuilt council chamber, larger now, with seats for representatives from every territory. The chamber was full, not just council members, but observers, wolves who'd come to see democracy in action. First item, Lyris announced. She'd been elected council speaker, a role that rotated monthly. The integration of the frontier territories into the kingdom proper. Naira listened as they debated. Voices raised, arguments made, votes cast. It was messy, chaotic, beautiful. This was what she'd fought for. After the meeting, she walked through the hold. It had been rebuilt too, walls repaired, blood scrubbed away. But it felt different now. Less like a fortress, more like a home. She found Riker in what used to be the throne room. They'd converted it into a gathering space. The throne itself melted down and reformed into a statue. A wolf standing on its hind legs, head raised, howling, free. What are you thinking about? Riker asked. How far we've come. How much has changed. Regrets? None. You? Only that it took a bond I didn't choose to find someone I'd choose 1,000 times over. Nira smiled. That's almost poetic. You've been spending too much time with the Scholar Council members. Probably. She leaned against him, feeling the bond hum contentedly. What happens next? We keep building, keep fighting when we have to. Keep choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. Sounds exhausting. It is, but it's worth it. They stood in silence, looking at the statue of the wolf. They're calling you the unbroken queen across the entire kingdom now, Riker said. Songs about you, stories. I'm not unbroken. I'm still... She stopped. I'm still fractured in places. Still wild. Still wrong by old standards. But you're free. That's what they're celebrating. Not perfection. Freedom. The words settled in her chest, warm and real. Freedom. She'd spent 6 years in the frontier fighting for survival, 6 months in the kingdom fighting for change. And now, finally, she was free. Not because she'd conquered everyone, not because she'd become someone else, but because she'd proven that being different wasn't the same as being broken, that refusing to kneel didn't make you weak, that the system could be changed by those it had tried to destroy. Come on, Riker said. The council's hosting a feast tonight. We should make an appearance. Do I have to smile and be charming? Absolutely not. Just be you. The feral queen who threatens people? Exactly. They walked through the hold together, past wolves who bowed not out of fear, but respect. Past omegas who met her eyes with hope instead of submission. Past a kingdom that was still broken in places, still healing, still learning, but changing. Always changing. In the Great Hall, the feast was already underway. Council members mixed with pack leaders, with refugees, with warriors. The old hierarchies were breaking down, replaced by something messier, but more honest. Nira sat beside Riker, not behind him, not below him, but beside, and looked out over the celebration. Rena caught her eye from across the room, raised a glass in salute. Saskia was laughing with Aldrich about something, the healer and the warrior finding common ground. Lyris was deep in conversation with a young beta who was explaining some new trade route idea. This was what they'd built. Not perfect, not finished, but real.
Thank you, Nira said quietly. Riker looked at her. For what? For seeing me. For letting me be exactly who I am. She struggled with the words. For giving me a place to belong without making me someone else. You gave yourself that. I just had the good sense not to get in your way. You claimed me at the gathering. That's literally getting in my way. Worst decision and best decision I ever made. Nira laughed. Same. They sat together as the feast continued around them. Two wolves who'd found each other in the chaos and built something that might actually last. The bond hummed between them. Not a chain anymore, not a cage. A choice. Made and remade every single day. Outside, snow began to fall. The first of winter. The kingdom would face challenges. It always would. More traditionalists would resist. More fights would come. But they'd face them together. A king who'd learned that true strength wasn't control, and a queen who'd proven that the broken pieces could be the sharpest weapons. They'd changed the kingdom. But more than that, they'd changed what it meant to be strong. And in the great hall of the Iron Hold, surrounded by wolves who'd chosen freedom over fear, Nira finally understood what she'd been fighting for all along. Not survival, not revenge, not even change, really. Just the simple revolutionary right to be exactly who she was. And that was worth everything. The feast continued into the night, voices raised in celebration, in argument, in hope. And in the heart of it all, the girl who'd refused to kneel stood tall, unbroken, unchanged. Finally, impossibly, completely free.